Today is, I almost said April 5th, but it's February 5th. It feels like April 5th because it's beautiful and sunny here.
Today is an open window version of the news, so enjoy those ambient sounds.
The sound of trains and things banging.
There's
right on cue.
The train right on cue. We planned it that way. The other reason the windows are open is because the building smells like a pool hall.
There's some construction going on, and the workers may be smoking in the building.
I don't know if that. I mean, it's probably OSHA doesn't allow smoking on construction sites, right? That's weird.
And well, Wendell specifically asked, "Please don't smoke here."
It does.
And they said, "Sure," as they lit up the next cigarette. Yeah. Today's going to be government and robots, a weird mixture, because it's a weird kind of day.
And in case you're wondering, those are superb owls in the background.
Oh, is that this weekend? Is that tonight?
That was this past weekend, yes.
Oh, right. This past weekend.
Oh, yes. Definitely not tonight.
Who do you have your money on? Team A or Team B?
Who's in it?
I don't know.
I think it's the Patriots is one team.
I think
Again?
What?
That's what I think.
Everybody hates them because they're always the winner.
They're the best.
Yeah.
I'm the best.
Yeah, you guys should also join Patreon or buy stuff from our merch store because January really is the worst timeline for ad revenue.
Yeah, the Patreon continues to bleed pretty badly. They've really angered some people.
Yeah,
they've a lot of I'd say about half of the people that have left Patreon have gone over to Ko-fi.
I say Ko-fi, but I think it's supposed to be coffee.
It says buy you a coffee, right? So I think it has to be.
But it's funner to say Ko-fi.
Funner is not a word.
I sent an email to Progressive and Campbell's to have like some sort of grudge match to see who has the best soup. So maybe we can call that the Super Bowl.
Progressive sells car insurance.
They also make soup.
Progresso.
Oh, it's Progresso. I messed it up.
You messed your joke up.
I messed up the joke.
The warm weather's
level 1 in a microcosm.
Getting on with the news. This is, I think this is finally maybe a good answer to this because I think this is simply saying reverse it.
Put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
A new net neutrality bill is headed to Congress. Senator Ed Markey said it's coming soon.
It does seem like the panel of judges, which is the next story, they are very skeptical of the FCC, which is a promising sign.
The Ars Technica article says the FCC struggles to convince a judge that broadband isn't telecommunications. So there was one paragraph in this article where I literally put down my phone and it was like, praise Jesus, hallelujah, somebody can read. Finally, we have somebody that can read on this because the thing literally says like an information service runs over a telecommunications service. And so the judge is like, okay, you're saying that broadband is an information service. On what telecommunication service does that information service run? And the lawyers for the cable company, which, FCC, whatever, are like, do what now?
I like how cable company FCC is just
the same thing. The same.
Is the judge unable to be bribed? They may be able to read.
Now you are misrepresenting them. That is not what their argument was. Their argument was that DNS was a service on which they offered information, and without DNS, it could not function. Now I wonder if these judges understand that you don't have to use the DNS from the ISP.
Netflix would like a word too with the whole throttling thing. Like how is the throttling thing DNS based?
Well, no, that was just their excuse for why it's information, not telecommunication.
So it's the Wookiees are not from indoor defense.
They also mentioned one other thing that was equally ridiculous. I don't even remember it because it was equally ridiculous. But another thing that we could probably do without. Well, so they've got our fingerprints. They've got our iris scans. They've got our face scans.
Got our bowel movement patterns.
Yeah, they got our DNA, our blood types. What's left? What more could they extract? I'm here to tell you.
The Intercept tells us that prisons across the U.S. are quietly building a database of incarcerated people's voice prints.
That's like a really terrifying timeline.
It really is. But there's a lot of people that sound really, really similar.
And what if you're good at voice acting? What if you throw your voice?
Well, so how they're doing this, as they explained, is one prisoner who was no longer in prison and so was able to actually speak out about it. He said they pulled them all out. They did a head count, and they came up to him one at a time, and they were like, you will either go to the phone and read these phrases as you are prompted by the robot, or you will no longer use the phone, ever. And so, of course, most of them did it. And reading those phrases calibrated the voice recognition.
Nice.
So, now, in prison, I watch a lot of
A lot.
Lockup.
A lot.
And those HBO prison documentaries, they don't come out as often, but they are like way better. Like they're the more like realistic raw stuff. And one thing they'll do, like modern prisons, they just give you a number, and your number is kind of like your password to everything. It's commissary, it's phone. They have a video conferencing now, and you go to this little kiosk, and you punch in your number. So it's not uncommon for you to be shaken down for your number and someone else to make calls on your account. So I guess it kind of makes sense that they would try to defeat that with this. But I don't think this is the way to do it.
So if you've got an inmate that can impersonate another inmate really well, they're going to just run up the bill a lot?
Well, they would have to know both. And the modern system, they just threaten you.
Oh, okay.
And make you give them your number.
Wouldn't the solution be just having like one of the prison personnel actually just monitor who's using the phone when?
Yeah, but who's going to pay for that? These are for profit. They cut every kind of expense that they can.
And just having a little screen on the phone that's like, this is Bob making a call. It's like, that's not Bob.
Yeah, maybe. Of course, then
Photo ID.
some of the prisoners would probably sue them for like undue surveillance or something. And both sides are horrible people in that equation most of the time. Like probably 80% of the time. So they're always trying to get one up on the other. Well, if you hate being tracked in all of these various ways, then maybe San Francisco is the place for you.
San Francisco Supervisor Aaron Peskins proposes citywide ban on facial recognition technology. Okay. I don't think that's going to work, but okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody cares what the San Francisco supervisor. I've never heard of that role.
He supervises San Francisco. That's maybe where the confusion
What
arises.
power does he have?
I've learned from Fallout that the supervisors are mad with power and kill everyone.
Those are the overseers.
Oh, yeah, right.
You're not
You just
you're
can't
just
get it.
bad
I can't
at-
get the
yeah.
things, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know who else can't get it today? Yahoo's legal team.
I think that's almost every day, not just today.
Reuters says this U.S. judge has rejected Yahoo's data breach settlement. So this is really Verizon's problem, not Yahoo's problem. But you remember Yahoo, how they like literally lost every single account during that whole Verizon buyout thing because no one at Yahoo cares anymore, as evidenced by the fact that they're literally now worthless. The judge is not wanting to let Yahoo settle for, what was it, like 15 million?
43 million.
Or 43 million?
But here's
it's pennies on the dollar.
Here's the crazy thing about it, and I agree with the judge, but it almost seemed like he was ruling against the plaintiffs here.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that he questioned, rightly so, is that 35 million of that was going to the legal team of the plaintiffs. And he was like, you guys, I think the quote was, none of the arguments proposed were particularly novel. In other words, why would that be worth $35 million? And he's right. So I don't know. I don't know if he's looking for a lower number though. I mean, that's not good. If it's overall cheaper for Verizon.
Well, they know for next time. Next time there's a company in this situation, the lawyers will demand 90 million, so that 35 million will seem reasonable.
Yeah, I guess. Well, if you're saying to yourself, you know what, I would like to get my hands on a corporate server. That's something I like to play around with. How does $8 sound?
Authorities shut down xDedic marketplace for buying hacked servers. Now, it provided access to more than 85,000 hacked servers in its heyday. So this was, typical like dark web, whatever. You can buy an account. I'm not so sure that we're not going to learn later that authorities have been running this place for like 6 months.
They do like to do that. But this was where you could buy RDP access to a variety of high-end servers, most of them, corporate environments. Some of them were government, just in case you wanted to get on one of those. And it really was around $8 to $10 for access. Of course, you don't know how long you're going to have it, but you can do a lot of damage in, a day or two.
Depending on how good the database was, you might be able to do some laser-focused targeting of somebody that you're interested in.
But it just goes to show you, the only way it would make sense if $8 per account is feasible, although I guess they could sell concurrent, right? But it has to be so easy to get access. Because you wouldn't invest any amount of time for $8.
Internet security just woefully inadequate? No, impossible.
Well, more security woeful inadequacy is in the phone networks, which we now use for two-factor authentication. And sometimes, through no fault of your own, you'll get screwed hard by that.
Motherboard brings us the article about the hacker who stole $5 million by SIM swapping. We've reported several stories, several times on this guy's escapades. He gets 10 years in prison as a result of this. It's the first sentence of this kind.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, that or more.
Yeah.
I would say. Now,
I'd say 10 years doesn't seem like that long, considering.
Right, and you might be thinking, well, this is like, you know, the problems with two-factor, with the SMS, blah, blah, blah. No. This guy was kind of social engineering or just straight up bribing the telecom people to give him cloned SIMs and attacking the accounts that way. He knew people had a lot of cryptocurrency, and he knew he fished them to get their accounts on the crypto exchanges, and then use this to get past the two-factor.
Yeah. Well, and there are SMS alternatives that are much more secure, like the two-factor auth applications that run on your phone. Those are not vulnerable to these types of attacks, which are good. So you should probably not be using just SMS for your two-factor.
Now, I don't know the official statistics, but I just think from empirical evidence, just based on like close personal experience, I'd say at least 1 in 3 people are severely addicted to the internet.
The digital drug, the internet addiction spawns the U.S. treatment programs. They're checking me in later. Don't worry. It's fine. It's even in Mason, Ohio.
You'd have to go for like a month.
28 days.
28 days. Well, you can still use the internet. You just can't use it obsessively.
Which, that seems strange to me, that you would not be...
Have you ever seen movies or documentaries where they're checking people in and they go through their stuff? And they're like, oh, no, you can't have this caffeine.
There's like phones.
Oh, you can't have the cigarettes, you know. And it's like, oh, and it's like I'm imagining them going through your stuff.
It's like, no, you can't have the Palm Top. No, you can't have the e-reader. No tablet. No laptop. No backup laptop. No other
backup laptop.
Is this a Raspberry Pi? You know better.
And then you just like the scene where like shaky cam gets in your face and you're like breaking down crying.
I find that
I do know better.
The symptoms of addiction are mitigated with time structuring, where it's like, I'm not going to check my email obsessively, but I am going to check it every 2 hours.
That's called...
bargaining.
Yeah, bargaining.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I did that when I first started playing Overwatch and I was like full-scale addicted. I had to like bribe myself. I was like, okay, you have to go home and you have to fix dinner and you have to do these chores. Once those chores are done, then you can play Overwatch for 2 hours.
But then you just half-ass those chores.
Yeah, because I'm like rushing around. Yeah.
Well, we've last week we talked about Huawei, and Huawei and China sort of in concert came out and said, listen, United States, if you have something to say about Huawei, get specific. Tell us exactly what we did wrong. And a lot of people criticize the U.S. because they didn't come up with anything. But wait.
There's more.
It's from Bloomberg, and they say that the U.S. charges against Huawei with stealing trade secrets and bank fraud. So you dig into this, and I think this one was one of the articles that reported the trade secrets from T-Mobile or something like that.
I think T-Mobile, that's a separate charge. From,
There's a lot happening with Huawei.
Well, so these came out of New York, and there was one from Washington. I think it was the T-Mobile one. Yeah.
So it's not looking good. The bank fraud thing really just stems from the whole doing business with Iran thing, which on the world stage, I mean, China's a sovereign nation. Iran, there's agreements in place. But the trade secrets thing's a little more serious, I think.
But the sanctions, I think, didn't China agree to those?
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know.
So,
but it's China. I mean.
Now, this is, of course, to get the extradition of the CFO. So remember how Canada was talking about, like, we might not do that? Well, the extradition treaty states that you cannot even appeal it if some of these crimes are also crimes in Canada, which I believe is true.
Yeah, all of these definitely are crimes in Canada.
She's coming. Love, she's coming.
She's coming.
And that's not going to be good for international relations.
No, it's going to make things really uncomfortable for Canada as well. I think one of the government people in Canada was like, can you guys just work this out so that we don't have to do this?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. They were actually kind of waffling, but this will kind of galvanize their position. They can either pull out of the extradition treaty from the U.S., which would be unheard of, or give them what they want.
Here's your engagement challenge. How is this relationship between China, the U.S., and Canada explained using characters from sitcom TV?
You think someone will do that? That's a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone will.
I
Someone
mean,
will.
it's like, China and the U.S. are kind of frenemies, but frenemies is really not the right word. And
Well, don't just give them the answer. They got to come up with it themselves.
Canada's the hapless idiot that's caught in the middle. I mean, it seems like it kind of fits a lot of TV shows.
You're gonna make some Canadians real angry with that.
Sorry.
Oh, they'll apologize.
Sorry.
Don't apologize to them. That's their thing. That's cultural appropriation.
Sorry.
Now, I've never heard of NERC or KIP. Have you guys heard of NERC or KIP before?
I've heard of NERC. Yes.
I have not heard of NERC.
NERC is the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, and KIP, I guess that's KIP and not SIP, is the Critical Infrastructure Protection.
Of course.
And it turns out they're actually doing something.
They are fining utilities $10 million, citing serious cybersecurity risks. So they did a study, and it was very detailed, that basically looked at our infrastructure, like electricity and all this other kind of stuff, found that it was made out of baling wire and duct tape, and that literally any, foreign nation could just waltz right in and, it's like program Hoover Dam to like melt down Vegas. Not a problem.
Yeah, and so this fine is the record, I think, but it's still not massively huge. The other thing that's interesting is they didn't release those details, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's like, hey, attack here, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, some people were criticizing it because it was like, well, how, except for the very upper echelon of these, places, how do we know what to fix?
I'm not really sure that we've really figured out how to build proper secure computers. Like, I'm not so sure that our intelligence service really should step in and be like, this is how we do this.
This is not about that, I guarantee.
Yeah.
This is just like some real rock dumb simple stuff. This is password 123 on a post-it note.
Yeah.
And on the secretary's PC. And
what's the password for the reactor? Meltdown with a 3 instead of an E.
they wouldn't even go that far.
Yeah, that's I won't remember that.
Well, Canada, if we haven't angered you yet, this should anger you, but it should be self-loathing.
Yes. Canadian citizens, listen up, because you need to do something here. Canada's Bell tried to have VPNs banned during NAFTA negotiations. Yeah, your phone company tried to have VPNs banned during NAFTA.
Although, I bring this up when we criticize other governments. It's like, what are you thinking, Australia? It's like, well, do you want yourself represented by the Trump administration?
No.
Or Verizon or Comcast? It's not really Canada's fault.
Well, I mean, Canadian citizens are going to have to be like, okay, look, this is the corporate death penalty for Bell. They're too powerful if they think they can do this.
If Canada was a person, Bell would be a tumor that they have. They don't want it.
But it's there.
But it's there. So what are they going to do?
It's expensive to cut out.
Now, they didn't say
like our FCC.
They didn't say VPNs should be banned. They said VPNs should restrict anything used to subvert copyright, which would mean logging and inspecting VPN traffic, which essence
defeats the purpose of
means
the
that
VPN.
there's no reason to use a VPN. So
We must spy on everything.
and we have to give the Canadians some credit because they didn't get their way.
No.
The tumor was, like injecting the poison into the body, and those white blood cells, they lined up.
No.
They wouldn't allow it.
The problem with that, though, is that it keeps moving what is reasonable. And it's a pretty binary situation. That kind of thing will never be reasonable, but it will make future unreasonable arguments seem less unreasonable.
Right, yes. You give a little bit each time.
Yeah.
Listen, we just want compromise.
Yeah.
Except one side, their way is leave us alone, and the other side is compromise. And you get a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and then guns are banned.
Big if true.
Wisconsin has been in the news lately, mostly because everything froze.
Like hard.
But
Literally, 4 days ago here it was like 6 degrees.
yeah, the
There
weather.
it was like negative 30.
Nature doesn't care about your plans. So now they get maybe a little bit of good news, which they've gotten before, and now they're getting a little bit less. And then they didn't get it again, and now it's back in a lesser form.
Foxconn says it will build that factory after all, citing a conversation with Trump. So Foxconn was going to build a display factory in Wisconsin, and then they weren't, citing the global marketplace and that kind of thing. And so now they're saying, well, we're still going to do something in Foxconn, and it'll be a factory, but it's probably not going to be something where we're competing with like China and Japan labor prices.
It was going to be, I can't remember what they called it, but it was like the number was 10. Now the number is going to be 6. So the difference there is 6 is smartphone through 75-inch panels. They're making displays. 10 would be up to like baseball park Titantrons. So a little bit less than expected.
Neat.
Well, Apple has been known to give evil governments, and I say evil governments realizing that ours is evil as well, anything that they want, except for FBI access. For whatever reason, they die on that hill. But China, do what you want. Some of these Arab countries, yeah, don't worry about it. And now, Russia.
Apple will reportedly store Russian user data locally, possibly decrypt on request. Now, we've got another story coming up about the admin credentials for that database, but we'll talk about that in a different section because that's exciting. But yeah, Apple, because that's the law in Russia. There's a lot of companies. If you do business in Russia, you got to store your stuff in Russia so that then they can get at it.
And somehow they had just been like, just kind of ignoring that because they're Apple. But Russia finally called them out, and they were like, okay, sure.
We need the money, so.
Yeah.
The thing that's really scary as an American is like, you are told all of these ideals where it's like, look, no, we would never want the same thing. But here in America, they want exactly the same thing.
Yeah. It's almost like they're just people.
Well, lizard people.
Yes.
Like they don't have any business needing that.
It's an important distinction.
We're going to get flagged as a controversy channel.
We've already been
Conspiracy
flagged.
theory.
Yeah. Well, so we know that Apple, speaking of censorship in foreign countries, they do whatever China tells them to do. But up until now, it's been kind of difficult to tell exactly what they're blocking in China because sometimes they block things because it needs to be blocked. And it's like, well, did they do this because it needed to be blocked? Or, well, now you can tell.
The Intercept brings us this great story about a new site that exposes how Apple censors apps in China. So you can go through this and actually see the stuff that is censored, which is a lot of fun.
It's a applecensorship.com.
Yeah.
Krista.
So you can see things side by side.
Oh.
How's that?
That's a cool image.
That's a good one, right?
That is good.
It's the Pixel Apple.
It's simple.
Well, it's the Pixel Apple.
But it's also the Chinese flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a clever
Good
use
job.
of two icons.
The Intercept.
The Intercept is so clever with these things.
The Intercept actually has a really nice site design, and it scales well.
I'm going to be so disappointed if it turns out the Russians are funding the Intercept.
Russians
Well,
do have good web design.
Chinese apps are super popular in China, but they're also super popular in India. But there's a bit of a hook in a lot of those apps.
Chinese apps seek excessive information from Indian consumers. At least 6 of the 10 most popular Chinese apps, including Hilo, ShareKit, TikTok, as well as others such as UC Browser, ask users to provide access to the camera and microphones on their smartphones, even when such access is not required. So this is kind of a follow-up. We reported, I don't think it was last week, I think it was the week before, we reported about a lot of applications that go through China that just store and log everything. And this is the same kind of thing, except it's happening with applications that are used heavily in India.
It had a list of them. I thought it was like
They redact it.
an itemized list. But there was a lot of, like image and beauty type apps. So some unsuspecting young Indian folk, all they want to do is put some nice beauty filters on themselves, and the communists have their data.
We've got another story about that later. There was an audit of like the top 2 million or 4.3 million apps or something, and I don't know. Well, that'll
What
be
an
another
illustrious list to be on.
It was like the top 25 apps with 4.3 million downloads. Something
top
like that.
25.
Something that was crazy.
Well, of course, we find out that Huawei is charged with data theft, and we've seen China steal some military secrets, according to our government. And so maybe this would make this one a little less surprising.
A second China-bound Apple car worker has been charged with data theft. So it was kind of cloak and dagger. The last time we reported on this, there was a worker that worked in the Apple car division. They went to the airport, and they were apprehended sort of at the last minute. It was like, shut down the airport and apprehend them because they got some logs and all kinds of other stuff. Well, this is a second person who's been apprehended, not in connection with the first, but a similar type data theft where it's like they were going to apply for a job and then they were getting ready to leave, and it's like they accessed some stuff maybe they shouldn't have, and so now they've been arrested.
Took
pictures in a restricted area, yeah.
And I think what he should have done in that situation is he should have been like, of course I was taking pictures, bro, I'm Asian.
Well,
that's our stereotype.
No, it was really like super suspicious. Like the article talked about how like you had the ironclad NDA and then you're not supposed to do that. And then like one of his coworkers was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like,
Nothing.
That was a joke.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
He also did not. He said he was going to visit his sick father when he was in fact going for a job interview. Yeah. So probably guilty. I think he admitted to it actually. Yeah. When they catch these guys, they fall apart. They cannot stand under scrutiny. Of course, they're probably being tased and beaten.
Is it that they're trying to help a country, like a company at home in their home country, or is it that they're working for the state?
I don't know. Where's the line?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about Huawei, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, speaking of India, if you want to, these big companies, especially the commerce and the phone companies and stuff like that, they want to be in India because India is sort of like the new evolving country.
Well, there's so many people there.
Well, China,
so many consumers.
They saw what happened in China, which was like the emergence of the middle class on a rapid timeline, because the technology and the industry and everything is already developed somewhere else, and sort of like the structure, and they just have to sort of fall into it, which they did. India will probably be next, and you really want to be there to gobble up some of that money, right? But India doesn't really want you.
India wants local companies. We've reported on this before, but Amazon and Flipkart face uncertainty as India readies new rules for foreign e-commerce companies. So basically the short version here is that you have to be an Indian company to do business in India, sort of, kind of. And so Flipkart is the one that Walmart bought, I think.
Well, there was kind of a loophole.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, you want an Indian company to do business? We'll just spend an insane amount of money on Flipkart. And India was kind of like, okay, we'll change the law again. And so now the rule here, one of the big rules is you cannot sell a product exclusively. So all the Echo stuff is out.
Yeah.
They probably can't even get great value in India.
Oh, what a travesty that is.
You also can't sell more than 25% of your stock to one third-party retailer. So you can't play this shell game where it's just like, it's not Amazon doing business, it's Amazondia.
Same thing.
And it's like, well, okay, that's fine, but they can only sell a quarter.
We're going to sell 20% of our stock to each of Amazondia 1 through 5 that cover these geographical regions. It's like geographic product distribution.
How about these guys styling ass blue frames here? Looking good.
He's one of those emerging, consumer markets we were talking about.
An Indian hipster.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, India's economy, in terms of like an information economy and lots of smart people, it's a great destination for outsourcing, like not call centers, but other stuff.
Well, they're in that we talked about this before, but they're in that crazy situation where they have an incredible space program and a booming economy, but people are still shitting in the rivers.
So depends on where you go.
Well, I think it's an issue of just scale. There's so many people.
Yeah.
And they just can't get the infrastructure up quick enough, and it's kind of corrupt.
Well, there's a lot of people in New York.
Yeah.
Well, I guess people are pissing in the streets in New York.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You know what? I should get off my high horse.
Yeah. We got a lot more room to spread out in the U.S., so don't notice it.
They got that rampant ID theft problem there, too, with it's like, let's do digital ID cards. Oh, that did not go at all according to plan.
Not what we expected.
Well, this is interesting because everybody in the EU loves to attack Facebook because Facebook is an evil empire. But now it's not just the people in the European Commission, but it's a snitch.
Snitch. The Mozilla Chief Operating Officer has contacted the European Commission voicing concerns about Facebook's lack of ad transparency. This article cites a couple of situations that Mozilla ran into with Facebook that's like, wait, what now?
Yeah, they were saying, we want to follow the rules of advertising in Europe, but when we try to advertise on Facebook, there's so little transparency, we don't think that's possible. So
Facebook doesn't probably really care that much. But
no.
As long as they're making money.
I don't know. I mean,
We've got so many Facebook stories this week again.
The EU can hit them with such insane fines these days. I think eventually they're going to care.
The slap fight between Google, Apple, and Facebook is crazy, but you're going to have to wait until tomorrow to get that.
Well, this one is a crazy example of when we talk about state-sponsored hacking, specifically the NSA. What could go wrong? Well, it turns out that when you have these tools, you don't work there forever. You go into the private sector at some point. And guess what you take with you?
Reuters brings us this article exclusive. The United Arab Emirates used cyber superweapon, I'm putting quotation marks around superweapon even though it's not there in the title, to spy on iPhones of foes. So a team of former U.S. government intelligence operators working for the United Arab Emirates hacked into the iPhones using this cyber superweapon. I mean, an iPhone is basically a Unix computer that you can have remote access to. And so, of course, intelligence services have completely and thoroughly compromised those. So you can use it as a listening device. You can use it for tracking. You can use it surreptitiously for all kinds of really interesting tasks.
It's a cyber super weapon.
This one was
stick to the title.
Well, this one was SMS.
Yeah.
So all they had to do was find your Apple ID or email or whatever, and put it in there. And they talked about how this was Team Raven. That sounds cool, right? It's like, super hackers. None of them had any clue what they were doing with this. Like, this software was so good, you literally just punched in email addresses and it started spitting back nudes and text messages. And it's like, these elite super hackers. No, these were just like, rock dumb ex-NSA people.
Interns.
No, they were ex-NSA.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why they had access to this. It is not known whether or not this continues to work. They did admit it lost a lot of functionality with iOS 7, was it? One of the versions?
I wonder if there's a security team inside Apple that is like auditing access to look for these kinds of access patterns. And they're like, hey, if the intelligence community has developed this kind of a tool, the access pattern would probably look like this. Let's make sure nobody's developed such a horrible piece of thing. Then they ran the search and then it's like,
oh no.
Get Tim Cook on the phone. He needs to be in here now. Like, I wonder if there was a moment like that inside Apple.
And they clearly used it on a lot of, like whistleblowers and freedom fighter kind of people.
Aaron Schwartz.
They called the one woman the Iron Woman of some country. But anyway, she was part of the Arab Spring uprising.
Terrorist, dissident, overdue library book. They're all the same.
Yeah. So hopefully that's not still going on, but it just goes to show you that you shouldn't... well, that specific one, I mean.
Oh, okay.
But it just goes to show you that you can't, even if our government isn't using it incorrectly, which it is, it doesn't mean that it should exist, because it eventually will be. Yeah.
I like it. Like we have said many times in the Level 1 news, these weapons is like giving chimps machine guns.
What could go wrong is what you mean.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Well, we have a lot of unsecured Internet of Things devices, and it's a problem. And a lot of people... well, maybe not in the government, but a lot of people in the security industry are, constantly saying we have to do something. But what can you do? Japan has a novel approach.
Japanese government plans to hack into citizens' IoT devices. The Japanese government wants to secure IoT devices before Tokyo 2020 Olympics and avoid Olympic destroyer and VPN filter-like attacks. So they're hacking for good, not to spy on you. Because somebody else will hack to spy on you and mine Bitcoin and
well, they just put a notice
service
up on your smart fridge. It's like, hey, by the way.
By the way, we're attacking the Olympics.
No, actually what they do is they hack you and confirm that you were the one that was hacked. Then they send a letter to your ISP, who in turn contacts you and tells you to update your stuff, change your password or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of bureaucracy, really.
Yeah. I don't think that'll be super... Remember the Bricker bot? That was very effective. Where it was, some vigilante was like, I'm tired of all the crap. If you still have an unsecured device, I'm just going to turn it off.
In this case, Japan is kind of like Batman, with like the nonviolence, whereas Brickerbot's more of the Punisher.
Yeah.
But it's funny because they talked about, the Olympic thing and the VPN filter. The reason Russia, that was clearly Russian state actors, and the reason they did it is because they were pissed because their people got banned from the Olympics for doping or something. And it's like, it's got to be fun to have that amount of power, where it's like, hey, get a hacking team together and go after this country because they didn't let us into the Olympics. I'm mad about that.
Sir, shouldn't these resources be spent elsewhere? No.
Oh, you'd never say that.
Even thinking back like 10 years ago, these headlines are just absurd.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like they get more absurd every time we do an episode of the news. Like,
An army of, I mean, how long until it's like an army of Nest thermostats is responsible for the death of 17 elderly people in rural Wisconsin as it shut down their heating?
Well, they killed people in Ukraine with the heaters, remember?
Oh, yeah, because they just turned it off.
Yeah. Well, they called it to cause an infinite reboot loop, which prevented it from working.
I saw one of those Internet of Things thermostats was offline over the weekend, and somebody in Wisconsin was tweeting up a storm about it. They're like, my house is cold, I can't turn the heater on, my thermostat's broken. Somebody came over and just like twisted the wires together, and then they had heat again.
That's probably a federal offense.
Yeah.
Probably a felony. Well, we talked, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about Facebook app on certain phones. You simply cannot delete it. It's a spying apparatus, which you cannot delete. Well, South Korea, they probably read that story.
Yes.
And they said to themselves, we should probably change this.
South Korea rules that pre-installed phone bloatware must be deletable. New guidelines require the industry to allow smartphone users the option to delete unnecessary preloaded applications to rectify unreasonable practices and reduce inconvenience. South Korea, I think, was it Iceland that did this first? So South Korea is following suit with Iceland, I think. This is good.
Well, South Korea, though, is... Like Iceland, I can see because they're like one of those really
small.
Like they're not in bed with the companies as much. But I mean, South Korea, Samsung basically owns it.
Yeah.
So this is actually a bold move on their part.
I wonder if I didn't think about the Samsung angle, but yeah, because Samsung makes a lot of money from those pre-installed apps.
Yeah, they do. So be interesting to see.
Can't wait to talk about the pre-installed. No, it wasn't pre-installed, but I can't wait to talk about the app. The Facebook VPN teenager debacle. But that's not this episode.
Don't stop ruining the next one.
Well, moving on to robot news. And the first robot we need to talk about is one of the oldest robots that we know as a country, really. The AI robots, at least. And that's Siri.
Apple has removed the Siri team lead as part of an AI strategy shift. Apple executive Bill Stracier, I hope that I got his name right, who's led the Siri team since joining the company in 2012, has been removed as head of the project in a sweeping strategy shift favoring long-term research over incremental updates, according to a report on Friday. What I want to know is this a promotion? Is he going to be doing more of the AI stuff, or is he going to be doing less? I thought I read one report that he was working on the team that was working on
the cars.
The
right?
cars.
And the cars, they just fired like a bunch of people out of them.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was accurate or not.
Yeah, they seem to be sort of unhappy with the fact that all the other in-home bots are outselling what do they call the Google one or the Apple one? HomePod, I think.
Yeah, HomePod.
HomePod is not popular.
Oh, didn't we have the story about the 200 question test? Siri did better than Alexa and Cortana.
Well, you're foreshadowing again.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But we did a story previously in earlier weeks that Siri was the worst performer.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That's what you put in your head right now. So that the other one is a pleasant surprise.
Too little, too late, Bill. Get out.
Yeah, so rip Bill. I'm sure he's well compensated. So
yeah,
he'll be fine. Yeah. Well, so one of the things we talked about the robot that had the gripper, it had the suction cup and the gripper, which was a huge. You think that's a simple thing? No, that's a huge leap in robotics because picking stuff up and manipulating things, robots are really bad about it. That if we had them, like if you used them for childcare, they would just crush the little children.
Or they would just let them slip right out of their little robot hands.
It'd be one or the other. They can't get in the middle.
I always wondered why the Mr. Handy robots in Fallout had like a buzzsaw attachment. It's like, oh, this robot's for childcare. Why does it have a buzzsaw?
Well, you never know. You might need to saw a kid in half in case there's a dispute over who the kid's mother is.
So one of the things that they just keep trying and failing to do is to give robots that delicate touch, and we might be getting closer.
Robot combines vision and touch to learn the game of Jenga. A machine learning approach could help robots assemble cell phones and other small parts in a manufacturing role. So yeah, we can play Jenga. Jenga robot.
Ooh, it's like lawn Jenga. Wait.
What?
Is it? No.
Oh my God, you're so blind. That's a green screen.
I thought it was like a really big set. I want lawn Jenga at my wedding.
It's just a standard. Oh, wow. So this little guy will Yeah, he's Jenga sized.
Yeah.
Well, that's not.
I'm saying there are giant Jenga sets, and I thought it was a giant one at first.
You just wanted to talk about your wedding.
No.
So what he'll do is...
Got it on my mind.
He actually does not play Jenga. He's not good at that. Because he cannot make good decisions about which block to remove. Like the structure...
Well, that's not what he's trying to do.
No. All he's doing is just he's getting in there and he's giving it that delicate touch. He's caressing these blocks.
Why is it a he?
There come the down vote.
Because men are better at Jenga. Yeah, and now what they did, you would think, okay, this guy's he's just trapped in a room playing Jenga over and over. No, they had him play 300 games of Jenga, and then sort of like do that AI thing where he plays it over in his head again and again and again to try and figure it out.
Kind of living hell.
Yeah, just can you imagine playing Jenga all 24/7?
So what could I have done better?
And nothing else. But I'm sure that this research is going to translate directly into sex bots. Because,
Neat.
you don't want them gripping too hard.
I was thinking warehouse, but all right.
It goes to sex bots first. That's what drives innovation. And another thing is, what if those same sex bots could literally read your mind?
Columbia engineers translate brain signals directly into speech. Thanks, Columbia engineers. So I guess this was they played recordings for people and listened to them like saying like 0 through 9 or whatever to look at what brain regions activate, and then they were to imagine like saying it back, I guess. And there was an AI that was monitoring their brain activity, and it didn't really take a very long training process for the computer to get pretty good at it.
Well, did you play the sample?
Yeah, it sounded really like gravelly.
It sounded like someone who had just drank about a fuel tank from a car of grain alcohol was saying 0 through 9.
All we need is a couple implants to clean up that signal to noise ratio, and it'll be fine.
Well, it did go through a neural network to clean it up.
Yeah.
So this wasn't even the raw output. But it is kind of cool that someday they'll be able to just immediately read our minds and lock us directly into jail just based on our thoughts.
I'm excited because we just heard the voice of a future Stephen Hawking.
But that would just... How could you get over the... you've got this thing in your mind that people that talk like that aren't too bright. There's something wrong with them.
Usually it's like, they're like a coma patient or
So
someone who has like
you don't want to
brain
take
trauma.
a man of that intellect and saddle him with that preconceived... I don't think I could break that down in my head and like...
Well, do you have that kind of a preconceived thing with the Stephen Hawking's thing? Because I mean, they made
No, it's literally a robot talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take advice from a robot. Robots are smart. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go.
But we might not have to wait for another Stephen Hawking. Who knows how long it'll be before we get another man of that caliber. But that's okay, because we will have machines that can do this job for us as they're self-aware.
A step closer to self-aware machines, Columbia engineers create a robot that can imagine itself. So that might not sound like much, but...
It's also a weird way to describe it.
Yeah.
But let's see. I think they got a picture of this little guy. Oh, no, they don't. They got
And
this.
it immediately feels self-conscious.
So it's just one of these standard arms. You can get these, they just come pre-built. But the cool thing about this guy is no part of his programming was like, you are an arm and these are your dimensions. This robot had no concept of itself. And then they were just like, okay, figure out what you are and pick up these balls. And it did it eventually.
Neat.
It took a while.
We know that that's not how Commander Data was built. Because at one point he's like, my ability to walk depends on knowing that my legs are exactly 27.2 centimeters long and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, they had a open loop and a closed loop way of this thing figuring itself out. It got 100% on one, but only 44% on the other.
It's like a toddler learning to
They
walk. Yeah.
literally compared it to a toddler. Because, like when they try to walk, they're just stupid.
Yeah.
And
But they get feedback. They get sensation.
right, exactly.
And then also people clap when they like take one step.
I don't know if they
my
did that
gosh.
for this thing.
No.
I think that would be considered cheating if they clapped.
The closed loop thing is kind of like the clapping. But...
Well, I'd love to show you a headline or maybe even a nice picture here, but the Washington Post...
Thanks, WAPO.
Flex is on us again.
Here's what Washington Post does that drives me crazy. If you ad block or, you throw up your little paywall, whatever, that's fine. But they redirect the URL back to the root.
Without fixing the title.
which means that I can't use outline.com. But they don't fix the title, which you can't see, but we can. And this one is about robocalls.
Report, Americans got 26.3 billion robocalls last year, up 46% from 2017. I would say that, based on my own personal experience, it's up 387%.
They talk about how a lot of the people questioned simply weren't answering the phone, which is weird because I think they do these surveys over the phone.
Someone just called 911 outside our office. You can hear it. Actually, I don't know if the mic will pick that up, but...
Oh, yeah, I can hear that.
They definitely can.
So, yeah, they talk about how people just aren't using the phone, and it's getting worse. They are doing the, what was the name of that? Something/something technology. Anyway, all the phone companies are picking this up. Maybe it'll help. I don't know. I don't think it will a ton. But I definitely very rarely answer the phone.
Well, there's just so many better ways to communicate than the phone. The phone is rude, and it interrupts what you're doing, and it's just terrible.
My mom insists on the phone.
Yeah.
She likes to hear my voice.
There's a lot of people who just won't stop using phones, but whatever. You know what? I thought this was going to be in a different section of the news, and it wasn't. So we really should have put this
back
with the other Siri story.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine.
So yeah, this one it kind of contradicts.
It's the follow-up to the bill goes to another division. The Motley Fool has this article. It's like, Siri gets much smarter as Apple's investment payoff. Oh, it's an 800-question test. I thought it was a 100-question test. Apple's digital assistant just vaulted past Alexa and Cortana in an 800-question test. So this talks about how Siri has improved dramatically. And it's really just based on like the whole feedback loop learning, analyzing data that people are asking it, that kind of thing.
So yeah, this is, you can see Siri move to the number 2 spot. Google Assistant's still number 1.
Yeah.
But before this, I think Siri was like last, maybe?
It was bad. It was really bad.
So Bill did a decent job.
Yeah.
I mean, he was improving Siri. What do they want from him?
They put him in the car section, which is going,
You think maybe like 6 months ago it was like, Bill's first lieutenant, they had like Tim had to talk with him, and it's like, look, what's going on? And he's like, we've been running this shadow project. Like, we've done everything Bill's asked us to do, but he's crazy. We've done this other project where we think we figured it out. Why don't you let us launch that? And then they do, and it's this much better. And then Tim's like, all right, Bill, you're out.
See, I like the timeline where Bill's actually like really good at his job, but Apple doesn't reward that.
I guess
it's much more interesting soap opera.
We will know soon enough.
What if it's much more like, Bill's banging somebody's wife or something?
that would be really good soap opera.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that we are using AI for a lot of stuff. We've talked about insurance companies, which is a horrible dystopian future that's coming. Crime statistics are using this kind of stuff. Some people are using it to determine who to promote or hire or whatever, and their jobs and stuff. And now, housing.
Automated background checks are deciding who's fit for a home. This is a very long article that takes a long time to say that there's this guy who was fully disabled, and he wanted to move in with his mom, and they couldn't get a house. And it turns out it's because that guy stole something when he was 20, or was charged with stealing something when he was 20, but the charges were dropped. But the software couldn't say exactly why he was rejected for housing, just that it was rejected.
It wasn't dropped. It was like one step down from a misdemeanor. He paid a $150 fine.
Okay.
So it was really a very minor thing.
And years and years and years ago.
But most importantly,
he's now fully handicapped, which he wasn't.
If that was the deciding factors, like, oh, this kid might steal something, he literally cannot speak or feed himself at this stage. So his thieving days are well behind him. He had a climbing accident or something, fell off of something. So yeah, and they kept trying to find us, like, okay, please tell us why you keep rejecting us for housing. And
I don't know. No one's ever asked that.
It threw this error. Look, it's a hex code.
Because you're a terrible person.
And
clearly.
Now she's going to sue over that.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing, but I don't think you can take away the business's ability to turn anybody down for anything.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we don't have that anymore, but we should.
It would be nice to know. I mean...
Yeah, they should have to disclose a reason. I think that would be like a nice middle ground.
But then if you force me to disclose a reason, you take away my ability to turn you down for anything, because then you're going to create these laws that say,
no, the
I
software
got to bake you a cake.
I'm not saying that the landlord has to disclose the reason. I'm just saying that the landlord should know for what reason the software has rejected the applicant.
I don't think that cared, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they probably do.
It's like,
Just too much headache.
Yeah, keep this riffraff out of here.
Is there any dystopian fiction where like the software decides that somebody is a terrible person, which actually creates the situation where it's like you're capable of murder?
Is that even fiction?
I've run your thing, and then they just create a situation where it's like, oh, you're capable of murder.
That's just reality.
It'd be like a modern version of switching places.
Well, yeah. What's going to happen is they're going to use the speech brainwave technology to scan your thoughts, and you're just going to be sitting around. It's like, oh, the Holocaust never happened. And it's like, never give this person housing. That's the future we're going into.
I'm thinking, Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. And it's like Mortimer and the other guy had the $1 bet. And then by the end of it, Dan Aykroyd was like ready to shoot people and stuff. And then, it had a happy ending. But I'm imagining the AI version of that, where it's like the AI literally creates the situation.
Well, major advances in science this week, as we have gotten essentially ray tracing for science.
Artificial intelligent artist instantly captures material properties. Now, the artist's name is misleading. It's an acronym. There's nothing artistic about it.
Let's see.
It's figuring out how photons interact with the material.
Artificial intelligence for spectroscopy.
I think.
That's a terrible word.
I can't read it from back here.
I've only ever said the word spectroscopic, so I'm not sure if spectroscopy has a different pronunciation.
So what it means is, you see this little beam right here? That's light.
Wow.
And the light is hitting this thing. And what this AI can do is it can simulate...
Pretty sure this is terrible stock photography.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Don't you dare.
It doesn't look like that at the molecular level.
It's going to predict what happens when various things are hit with light without actually having to hit those various things with light.
Yay. Is the photon going to be absorbed? Is an electron going to be emitted? Film at 11.
It's clickbait.
The worst kind of clickbait.
Well, we talked a lot about, advances in robotics. But what about the fact that these robots are all just too huge? We need tiny robots. And now we're going to get them.
Four-legged walking robot is smaller than an ant's face.
That's pretty small.
I was really impressed by this until it was like, what did they do? They taped some magnets to the legs. And
I don't think they use tape.
Glue.
But here's said ant. I don't know what kind of ant this is.
It talks about it in the article.
There's lots of different kinds of ants, but here's this little guy.
Is it a mini ant?
You can see him. We'll watch him.
At 1,000,000 FPS.
Just rumble around there. He's so small that it's hard to see him. But he just has these little flippers, and they rotate. They got a little.
Look at him go!
It's magnetic.
They look like tadpoles.
Oh, he's jumping.
Yeah. But yeah, he's too small. He can't actually have motors. So they're using
power source.
Magnetic fields to rotate those things.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about it is he'll basically last forever. Yeah. You can't destroy him. I mean, you could put a little tiny bit of pressure on him and destroy him, but as far as travel, he'll just keep going.
Neat.
I don't know what we'd use him for.
Yeah, I don't know what the practical application of a robot that tiny is, but dang if it's not cute.
One thing he sure as hell can't do is deliver a towel. Maybe a tiny towel.
That's an amazing segue. At Alibaba's futuristic hotel, robots deliver towels and mix cocktails. They've got the video is not really super interesting, but I mean it's okay. It glows blue. It can call the elevator.
I imagine this guy just mixed a cocktail for this young lady and delivered it. But this is a hotel where it's called Fly Zoo. I don't know why they call it Fly Zoo. I think it's a pun in Chinese or something. But anyway, they are testing cutting edge stuff, and this is sort of their little testing playground for stuff they want to sell to the rest of the hotel industry.
It could be neat. It could. I didn't. The more surprising thing for me was that Alibaba has a hotel.
Pretty cool. So the other thing about this hotel is it's all face recognition, and they claim they delete your face scan as soon as you check out.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Come on, this is China, bro. But you check in, you never interact with a human. You go to your room, your face is your key. You go inside. There's an app. So if you're like, hey, I'd like to order some bottles of water, you order your bottle of water on your app. The robot shows up. He scans your face, opens up, and gives you your water.
Oh, that's kind of nice. You don't have to go down to the machine at the end of the hall.
Right, yeah.
You know, in your socks, and you get locked out.
Or he'll bring you towels or whatever. I think they have room service, and it's all, you very, very rarely have to interact with another human if you don't want to.
That's my kind of hotel experience.
They talk about the lobby. It looks like a spaceship, but there's almost no people in it because why would you ever be in the lobby in this hotel? So, now here's one. This kind of interests me, but I'm not going to be an early adopter. I need this, but I ain't early adopting it.
You'll need like 3 of these. It's like iRobot unveils Terra, a Roomba lawnmower. It seems a little small. So.
Well, but here's the thing. It's just like the Roomba. It remembers where it left off, so it doesn't have to do it all in one.
Yeah, it can go charge its batteries and come back. And it talks about the thing. Apparently, FCC approval was a big deal because some people that operate radio satellites were worried that its system would interfere with radio or like radio telescopes.
Yeah, so like this area here, you have to put these stakes in so it knows it's like you're not allowed to cut down the flowers, but it will do the dad pattern and give you that nice look, and then it shows somewhere. Oh yeah, here's the little things that you have to put in your garden.
Did this article mention the price?
Don't think so.
Don't think so.
It's a bummer. I don't have a lawn yet, but one day I will.
Well, there are other products like this, like John Deere demoed one that's a little like a more beefy version of this.
A beefy version of a lawnmower.
And this shows you how you can stake off to create this barrier to show it where it's not allowed to go. It also said it was an all-weather one, but I wonder, like, could it really cut in the rain? And would you ever want that?
No, you don't. You definitely don't want that.
So,
Ryan, you should get one. Just like you need to get some cats.
Wet grass won't even work with a zero-turn gas monstrosity.
Yeah, I think you would run into some problems pretty quickly there. You would also have to clean that thing every once in a while. Yeah. There's no way it can just keep running if it's crusted over with grass.
Build the robot cleaning robot, where all of your robots can go outside and be cleaned.
Also, there's no answer to the question of aggressive dogs, or ducks, or geese.
Or not even aggressive dogs, just curious ones. Like Rue would probably be like, "What is that?"
Yeah, imagine their nose right down it. You put this out in like a public park next to a lake or something, and the geese are threatened by it. It's going to mow some geese.
Or they'll mess it up somehow.
That's a PR nightmare.
Maybe it can scare off other geese by putting the entrails of the first geese that it mows on
like on a stake on top of it.
Yeah.
That only makes them more aggressive.
It aggroes the geese.
We learned that from the forest.
Oh, it does make them more aggressive, I think.
All right, we will see you tomorrow with more news. And what categories?
I don't think we've decided yet.
Probably
business.
Yeah, probably business.
Yeah, business was the big one, right?
Yeah.
Choice.
Business, and we might throw security in with business, since that was the short one.
Okay.
What was it? I don't know. It's going to be fun to find out.
The Superb Owls are going to be here all week.
How about that sports team? Hello. Today's February 6th, and we have more news for you here today.
What categories of news do we have?
Did we put design in this section?
No.
We ended up switching it out.
That's going to be on Friday.
Okay. I don't remember.
Business, which includes technology.
Well, there's like social media stuff in here too.
Everything except nonsense includes technology. You don't really do a technology section. But yeah, business and security is what we'll talk about today. And this one could have gone under either of those headings. But
it could have gone under nonsense too.
It shows business.
The Intercept has Google's Sidewalk Labs plans to package and sell location data on millions of cell phones. Wow, what a name, Sidewalk Labs. It's like
sounds so innocent.
Yeah, it does.
Like it's a community sort of venture.
Well, no, they're packaging the data, so that means it's not going to be de-anonymizable, right?
So they're flying here. The window's open. Been invaded. Yeah, so what they're going to do, this is for city planners. So if you're planning a city and you're like, hey, where do I need to build sidewalks and crossing walks and stuff like that, and, like maybe a public bathroom or something. Well, it's hard to figure out. You have to actually watch what people are doing. But guess who's watching what everyone's doing? It's Google.
Who's watching Google? Because who watches the watchers?
Wall Street.
People who are looking to invest.
I'm not sure what those people are doing qualifies as watching, but okay.
Oh, they're watching. So yeah, they're going to sell the location data, and yeah, if you really wanted to, you could probably track people with it.
Does that include people that have opted out?
There is no opting out. You know that. It doesn't include Apple users yet. Unless they're using Gmail. Or any Google app.
Or any website that uses Google Analytics.
Yeah, well, if they're searching the web while they walk, which, of course, we know everybody is. Well, maybe this week's biggest story, at least the biggest story when it came to, the big tech companies, was Apple putting its foot down on the throat of some of its competitors.
Apple says it's banning Facebook's research app that collects users' personal information. Now, unless you're living under a rock or this is your only source of news, I don't know that I would describe what Facebook has done as a research app. They paid teenagers to install an application on their phone that literally monitored everything.
But that's research. I mean, that's market research. What do you think market research is?
Can we call what the Nazis did research? I mean,
yeah, of course.
It's unethical, but it is research.
I mean, what was that one Japanese place where it was like sewing legs onto people's hips and stuff like that? That was research. I don't know what it accomplished, but
well, Apple has taken issue with that, and they banned. The way that it works is Apple has to issue certificates, and so it's this thing called an enterprise certificate, and that means that if you get an enterprise certificate from Apple, you can write software for your employees to use on their Apple devices, and it will only work on devices that belong to employees of Facebook, because Facebook has an enterprise certificate. Well, Facebook was giving out the applications to people that were not employees, which is a violation of that agreement, which is what led to Apple revoking that certificate, which is what stopped their custom applications from working on Apple devices for Facebook employees.
But more importantly, they did that because there is no way this makes it into the App Store. No way. Because it's just straight up spying on everything you do. It's a root certificate. There is nothing you can do on your phone that this could not monitor. And they were paying $20 a month, plus $20 if you refer a friend. And in exchange for that, you gave Facebook everything that happened on your phone. Literally everything.
I think that's worth it. Our corporate overlords need that information.
Think how many golden trowels you can get in Farmville.
Yeah. Well, and you did give it as you got it as gift cards, not cash. It wasn't direct deposit.
Of course. Yeah.
So a lot of people, it was targeted toward teenagers, which again makes it even worse. But the good news is, no other company other than Facebook would have the balls to do something this invasive. There would be no chance of that.
Oh, wait. Google pops up and says, what? And so the Verge headline is, Apple blocks Google from running its internal iOS apps. Google joins Facebook in Apple's banning spree. So, yeah. Facebook was pretty quick to restore the certificates for Facebook so Facebook could continue operating. I don't know. I guess they worked it out, hugged it out, whatever. But as of the time of this recording, Apple has not reinstated Google's thing. Probably it is by now, by the time you're watching this, I would say. But Facebook or Google was doing a lot of the same kind of stuff as Facebook, apparently having non-employees use enterprise applications.
And they were doing similar kind of tracking too. But they did grant that Google was much more upfront about it. Facebook, there was some fine print that told you exactly what it was doing, but it was just kind of like, hey, this is fun and exciting. Did we mention it's $20 a month? $20 a month. Let's keep reiterating that. $20. And they didn't really tell you exactly what was going on, and they targeted it toward the kids. Google was just kind of like, yeah, we're going to spy deal with it, because they're Google.
You can participate in a research program where we do terrible things. We will need stool samples every other week.
So that's something that I doubt either will be doing for a little while. Eventually they will. They'll take a quick pause on that. This one I couldn't read because Cheddar, for whatever reason on the surface, just wouldn't render this page. So
Cheddar.com. Wow. It makes a return to the Level 1 news with the headline, Apple plans a gaming subscription service, according to multiple sources. So, yeah.
Is this going to be mobile games?
No, it's, you
all got phones, don't you?
It's probably going to be the whole Apple TV thing, but games that can follow you around on multiple devices. So, yes, you could play on your phone, but you could also play on your TV or whatever.
Do you have to control it with your phone?
Well, that's an option. You can, there are games now that you can use your phone as a controller, but actually play it on something else.
Similar like a Switch would work.
Scrabble, Like if all of your friends have iPhones, you can use an iPad as a Scrabble board and then play Scrabble with 4 iPhones, and the iPhones are like your little word
Your
thing.
tray.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'm coming out against it.
Do you play board games a lot, Ryan?
No. I mean, I'm not against board games. Board games are the one situation where that might work, but they try to make things like Fortnite on mobile, and I've never tried it, but I can't see how that would ever work. We talked about Intel last week, and they were desperate for a CEO, and they kept asking people, and people kept saying, "Your company's not in a good place right now." I'm sorry.
That's literally the sound they made.
And so the question was, are they ever going to find a replacement for the interim CEO? And now we have the answer.
VentureBeat says Intel's interim CEO Bob Swan gets the job permanently. Now, he's on record as saying that he did not want the job, which I think my comment at the time was, makes you wonder what sort of dumpster fire is raging inside the company that he doesn't want it. Well, it turns out that he's like, okay, you know what? You talked me into it.
They're like, congratulations, Bob. Literally everybody else we wanted turned us down.
Now, there was one other possibility, and that was that Intel was trying to do some crazy thing, like trying to recruit Lisa Su or something crazy like that. And they finally just got clued in that no, she's not going to do that.
The fan fiction I had in my head was that he's in love with Lisa Su, and he's going to offer up Intel as like a sign of his love on Valentine's Day. But he was waiting for this deal to go through.
What if he was going to go to work for China?
I don't know. That could be a possibility. I think my fanfic's better. But
Intel's only 50 years old, which it seems like they're older than that. I mean, I like to think of them as like a multi-century company.
Well, they eat right, and they get a lot of exercise.
But, yeah, I mean, Intel's definitely got an uphill battle that they are facing. And they also sunset the Itanium. We didn't have a story for it, but they've announced...
He went into his office to go get it.
The Itanium, it's dead. They've announced that you can still buy them for a couple more years. HP Enterprise will still, let you buy an Itanium computer, but it's like 2020 or 2021. It's like no more orders. They don't want to deal with it anymore. The Itanium becomes the Itanic. Because it's saying.
How long have you been thinking of that joke?
For years. Also, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope.
Which will not be the title. I quietly didn't say anything earlier. Trying to be nice.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So, BuzzFeed, as we learned last week, losing a big portion of their people. Was it 17%?
Yeah.
I think. And I think this story is a good example as of why, because this is not even close to the first time this has happened.
BuzzFeed News says one of the biggest at-home DNA testing companies is working with the FBI.
Yeah. So
surprising no one.
They call it the Golden whatever killer.
Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
From the 70s.
So this is, it's not a huge, they're not breaking a huge story here. But it is interesting to note, this is, what's the name of them? Family Tree DNA. This is not a company that types your DNA. You get it done, and you have like the DNA signature or whatever, and you upload it here, and they show you where other people might be who are related to you. And they send everything to the FBI. Not really. They won't let the FBI just search it, but if the FBI comes to them with a compelling case, they will let them in to search it.
You'd think that would be with a warrant, but
No.
Just
that's not how that works.
Just got to bring them a box of cookies, maybe some Starbucks.
Yeah, some flowers.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, we didn't find a child killer, but we did find a guy that embarrassed your director like 7 years ago.
Here's somebody who's somewhat related to Aaron Schwartz.
Let's punish them.
Yeah. It's like, we will make sure his family never reproduces.
Well, a lot of people are kind of down on Amazon because they say that Amazon is not a good employer. They don't treat their people well.
He didn't treat his wife well.
They don't give them things like bathroom breaks. Luxuries, really.
Or heating.
You know what?
Just basic human decency.
Oh, look at me. I have hypothermia at work. Oh, cry me a river. But it turns out the workforce doesn't seem to care very much.
Americans are lining up to work at Amazon for $15 an hour.
That's good pay in a rural area.
Well, this is really surprising, though, because, we know several people that work in various capacities at Amazon that are basically warehouse-type work. And in all of the cases, the $15 an hour is kind of a worse deal than the stock options.
And if you are there for any amount of time. Now, for the new workers, it's way better because you have to get vested into the
It takes
stock
like
stuff.
a year. Yeah.
But, I mean, you get the impression a lot of these people are sort of like in and out of jobs.
Yes. Well, the people I know of who have worked in Amazon sort of positions, like, yes, they're in and out of jobs for the most part.
Yeah.
That's probably the difference.
You're talking, of course, about Nubbin.
Nubbin is one of them. I know somebody in Lexington.
Yeah, I'm thinking some other people as
He's
well.
incredibly loyal to Amazon. In fact, he gets up every morning, rolls out his carpet, and then does his morning prayer in the direction of Jeff Bezos.
Wherever he happens to be.
His counterpart in RimWorld unfortunately died last stream. Spoiler alert.
That's terrible.
Sorry.
Shocking. I haven't exported that one yet.
We still love you.
Well, you know what? The time is coming for cord cutting. Everybody's doing it. It's the hip new thing. It's almost like Apple products, you know? It's cool to do it.
Getting rid of stuff.
And you might be thinking, you know what? I don't really care for Netflix. I don't care for Amazon. Maybe I'll go with one of these gray boxes. That'd be a way to describe them, and you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, so Ars Technica says the Netflix, Amazon, and Hollywood studios shut down the maker of the free TV box. So this is Dragon Box will pay $14.5 million. This is surprising because they announced that they were going to fight it, and then something happened, and their lawyers were like, you know what? We're just going to shut down. These people are not going to provide the software or do anything.
I mean, would they really have a case there, though? Like, just to provide other people's things?
Well, technically, kind of they would, because to the letter of the law, they don't host any copyright material.
Yeah.
They're literally only pointing you to where you might find it.
Just a technicality.
Is it, though? How does the law work?
That's true.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a technicality. I just think that it's sort of an uphill battle for them. And so $14 million is probably the least headache option.
Yeah. And they had spawned several other websites from this. And then they also talk about, what was the other box? I can't remember the name of the other. But these guys go after every kind of box that does this kind of thing. This is kind of an easy business model because you really are just selling links, making a nice little UI for it.
Yeah.
Hardware is super cheap.
But you don't have to host any content or anything like that, which,
Yeah.
takes a lot of bandwidth and money and stuff.
So, but you don't last long and you have to pay back $45 million. You think they made anything? They probably made a couple dollars.
Probably not as much as we expect. Probably not $14.5 million.
Well, if you have an Xbox One, you may have noticed this week that they just magically stopped working.
I saw a lot of Twitter posts about this.
They were down. Now they're back. So, yeah, the internet was out. This internet outage affected a lot of stuff, but I don't know if
But
it's really an outage.
here's the shocking thing to me about this, because they talk about people, like the boot screen didn't even work. So you're telling me that an Xbox won't boot without an internet connection?
It seems bizarre, but
that
not
does seem
that
bizarre.
bizarre.
Why would that? I mean, and if you unplug the cable, do you think that it would suddenly start working?
Probably for booting, yeah.
That's weird. Definitely makes me not want an Xbox. Although,
Did you really want one before? Like,
well, I kind of super want to play that cowboy game.
oh, Red Dead
Red Dead
Redemption
Redemption
2.
2.
Yeah.
Rockstar.
I super want to play it. They'll probably release it on PC sooner than later.
They never did the other one.
Yeah.
They didn't?
Nope.
No.
Ooh.
That's disappointing.
It's a compelling reason.
Well, the Dragon Box is out. Sorry. So you're going to have to make a choice. What's it going to be? Are you going to go to Netflix or are you going to go to Amazon? And the answer depends on whether you love quality or quantity.
Cord cutting, Amazon has more content, but Netflix has higher rated films. Tech something says.
Yeah, it's
Now-
kind of cropped.
Some people complain that we are zoomed, and
We
we
are
are not zoomed. This is USA Today on 1080. You can't display the headline.
I remember when USA Today's design launched, and like people were talking about how innovative the design was, but it scaled terribly even then.
Yeah.
I think they had a chart. Maybe not.
Yeah,
No, they don't.
these are like standardized ratings, and the ratings are much higher on Netflix than Amazon.
So yeah, and plus Netflix has the originals, which are somewhere highly rated.
Yeah.
But Amazon has way more variety.
They have that Jack Ryan show that they won't stop.
I watched that.
Promoting.
It wasn't terrible, but I don't think they should have called it Jack Ryan. I think they should have called it The Terrorist that Jack Ryan is after. Because most of the show is about the terrorist.
That would have been more interesting, probably.
It gets kind of boring.
Are the terrorists interesting characters at least?
Kind of. You know, it's like you go through his history of what made him a terrorist, and they try to make him
Sympathetic.
It's kind of like that, but
Turns out that this terrorist is created as a result of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Whoops, sorry. We didn't mean to do that.
well, it was very similar to that. Spoiler alert.
They're pretty much giving it away in the trailers.
Speaking of cord cutting, DirecTV. Now, when I moved into my new house, the amount of mailers I got from DirecTV, I think I could have wallpapered a room with them. It's ridiculous how. And it's funny because this article says they stopped promoting aggressively, but I don't know. Anyway, not doing well.
Yeah, DirecTV has now lost a staggering 14% of its users in Q4. Losses, which follow AT&T's decision to cut back on promos, dropped the platform to number 3 behind Hulu and in the VMVPD race.
I don't
know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. Now, when we announced the AT&T acquisition of DirecTV, and I made a prediction on that day that was going to be terrible for consumers, and it was tantamount to AT&T admitting that they literally can't deliver video over, like the network has been so poorly maintained, they need a satellite system to deliver video. And I was right.
Well, one thing about the merger is it's supposed to save you money. The consumer, I mean, not AT&T.
Yeah.
And that's because you have to go before Congress and say all these things about that. And amazingly, the reaction to the 14% cutback is like, okay, conference call time. What are we going to do about it? We're going to raise prices, which...
Yeah. AT&T's mega mergers are going poorly, and you're footing the bill. So massive merger debt has forced the company to raise prices. And this is something Wall Street warned about, but Wall Street really misunderstands the situation. For communications, people will pay, like if you work at home and you depend on having a good internet connection, you will pay whatever. You will be super unhappy, but you will pay whatever.
You will find a house closer to a good internet connection.
Yeah.
In the case of Ryan.
Or move
I gave
or
up
whatever.
on so many delightful country homes.
Because there was no internet.
Because there's just nothing. But for like cable TV, it's like, no, you can either live without it, get an antenna, or stream services. And that's AT&T's nightmare scenario. AT&T, their plan internally could not have been anything other than to ride the razor's edge of having a network just barely good enough for internet service and just barely bad enough that streaming video would be awful so that you use the satellite service. It can't be anything else.
Well, that ain't going to work. For me, it's not a question of any of that. It's just that I can no longer, like once you've had a world without commercials, I can't go back.
You can't go back.
I'll never go back. I've got the Sirius radio preview because I got new cars. And at first I'm like, maybe I could get used to Sirius. And then they play commercials and I'm like, what? The spell is immediately broken. It's like, what was I thinking? Of course I can't pay money for this. This is ridiculous. They're making money from the commercials. So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Now, this next story, my first instinct was to ignore it because it's PR. And it's feel-good crap. But I don't want to editorialize in my story selections. So here it is.
Elon Musk makes all Tesla patents public to save the Earth.
Oh my God, what a prince of a man.
And scroll down so you can see his beautiful face.
Oh, look, he's staring off, looking
With his
into the
arms
future.
crossed. What is the picture in the background? I don't...
It's people running.
They're like, they couldn't just do like a white background.
You know
so
what they're running from is electric cars going wild.
Now, I think that I'm going to criticize this story for a different reason. That is, Tesla has this $920 million loan coming up. It looks like they're going to have enough cash on hand to cover that. But if their stock was above a certain price, they could actually repay that loan with stock instead of cash. He should have timed this a little better to try to boost the stock closer to that payback thing, because that might have been the thing to send the stock over the edge.
No way. Because investors are not this stupid. They see through the bullshit for the most part. And they're going to be like, wait, you have something of value that you're giving away? That's not going to help the stock price.
He did give away the electric charger tech, which seemed to help the number of Tesla charger stations elsewhere, but not here in the U.S.
So his statement was, he doesn't consider it Tesla versus the other electric car companies. He considers it all electric car companies versus gasoline cars, or fossil fuel cars. So I kind of don't think that Porsche feels that way, which might give them a little bit of an advantage when it comes to the cutthroat world of business. But hey, I guess it is an overall. You can't really say it's a bad thing.
No, it's not.
So there you go. Good job, Muskie.
He hates being called that. It's his least favorite nickname.
Well, what if I told you that there was going to be a huge new repository of podcasts? How excited would you be?
Wow, I would be so excited.
Yay.
I'm excited at like 0.02% because I don't really listen to podcasts.
I don't have
that
time
much.
to listen to podcasts.
Ars Technica says that Spotify is reportedly in the advanced stages of acquiring a podcast company for $230 million. Unknown whether a series like Reply All, Science versus... Science versus?
I think it's a series where it's like science versus something different every week.
Would become the Spotify exclusive. I missed the subheadline on this, but yeah, I'm surprised that Spotify would value a podcast company this high.
Yeah, it seems like would podcasts really push you over the edge for signing up to Spotify?
I mean, I could see a valuation of like 10, 20 million for just the volume of content, but I mean, come on.
And usually most podcasts they have various avenues of hosting. So you wouldn't have to go to Spotify just to get, like 80% of the offerings. I don't know. Maybe we're just not hip to the podcast world. Maybe we're out of the loop.
Oh no!
We have a podcast, Level 1.
It's mildly successful.
It's not, people like
but
it.
We can't give Spotify our podcast. It's just for the patrons.
It is at patreon.com/level1.
Yay!
Well,
that was our self-promotion segment.
Some of you are probably sitting there and you're saying to yourselves, I need a super, super powerful CPU. And I need it to have a lot of unlocked cores and just massive multi-core computing power. But I'm not willing to build my own computer. I want somebody else to build it for me. And are you in luck?
Because Intel has released the new Xeon W3175X, 28 unlocked cores, and it's priced at only $3,000.
Only.
But surely you must be saying there must be a catch. There is, in fact, a catch. There's several catches, actually. The first of which is that Intel is rumored to only be making a very, very limited number of these.
Less than 10,000.
And the second catch is that you're probably going to have to go through a system integrator to get your system, meaning that somebody's going to have to build you your computer.
Starting at $10,000.
Probably going to be around 10 grand.
So reasonable then.
Well, this CPU is very similar to the current top-end Xeon Platinum CPU, which came out, I think, in 2017, which is $10,000 each. So, except this one is unlocked and overclockable, unlike its Xeon Platinum counterpart. So this is a really interesting product. I don't think that, if people are paying $1,800 for a CPU, maybe they're paying $3,000 for a CPU, but you can't really buy it in quantity, and the whole, the motherboard is going to be over $1,000.
Yeah, there's two motherboards, one of which doesn't exist yet.
Yeah. Seems like
but it is competitive with the comparable Epic, which is what, 4,500?
Yeah.
But you can buy that.
Yeah.
So,
or buy a server that has two of those. It's actually, I think, faster than anything that AMD has at this point. But the ability to obtain it, because day traders, there are day traders that have the Xeon Platinum, whatever, and it could be $15,000, and they would still buy it. So,
but they made that $99.90 for the day traders.
Yeah, that's 5. It's not as many cores, but it's 5 gigahertz. So depends on what you're doing.
Competing with themselves.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is Team Blue has won.
The 7-nanometer chips aren't out yet. Let's wait and see.
Watch everyone argue in the comments.
AMD saying, hold my 7 nanometers. Or hold my beer or something. I'll be right back.
Well, let's switch over to security. And let's talk about unsecured databases, just like we do every single week.
Oh, no. An unsecured MongoDB database has exposed the Kremlin's backdoor into Russian businesses. Wait, what now? Admin at Kremlin.ru. I read that, and I was laughing for a solid 5 minutes. So, yeah, if you run a forum or a website or something, you might want to check for an account called admin at Kremlin.ru. Now, this is actually for, some of these things, that is a state-mandated account. For financial transactions and stuff like that, they literally are give us the login. We want to be able to see stuff and track stuff. And the username or the email associated with it is admin at Kremlin.ru.
Did you check the Level 1 forums for that?
Yeah, we don't have an admin at Kremlin.ru.
If I saw that, though, in our user logs, I would assume that was a troll account.
Yeah. I'll give you another pro tip if you're running an admin account. If that's on a web server and your website has a newsletter pop up, I'm signing you up for it every time I visit.
You told me about that, and I do that every time now. Or I just put screw you at no.
You can also do sales, customer
marketing.
service.
I've done a marketing app.
I'll change it up.
If you know of an account that has an autoresponder, bonus points, because then you can get an infinite loop of auto responding.
No reply. I hadn't thought about that. I'm going to start using that. Well, another thing, we don't talk about the Google Play apps quite as often as we do unsecured databases, but we do quite a bit. And this week we have some pretty nasty ones.
This one was the one that I was foreshadowing in the last episode. It's a Google Play apps with greater than 4.3 million downloads collectively, stole pics, and pushed porn ads. So these 29 apps concealed their malice and were hard for many infected users to uninstall. So yeah, this is more evidence that the Google Play Store is an unproperly monitored dumpster fire of insanity.
They really pixelated these. They're like,
Let's just
don't
love
take any
purple.
chances. So yeah, these things, it would happen as soon as you booted the phone or as soon as you opened certain apps or whatever. But you didn't have to open. Actually, this app didn't appear anywhere on your phone after it was downloaded. It hid itself in every way. So, unfortunate. Maybe this is the one where they listed the. Oh, here we go.
There it is. Yeah, look.
Pro camera beauty was the big one. Cartoon art photo. This is all just crap camera filter, just garbage.
Well, listen, you can't post your real face on social media.
Literally all of these.
I wonder if
Hashtag no filter.
I wonder if in the future archaeologists, how archaeologists talk about the fall of Rome and the things that led to the fall of Rome and the cultural thing. I wonder if archaeologists are going to look back and be like, well, when cartoon selfie camera passed 2 billion downloads, that was really the marker for the.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to be like, those cartoon filters are going to be how they think people actually looked.
Anthropologists, don't correct us.
Anthropologists, yes, sorry.
Archaeologists.
They would find the software and then the anthropologists would comment on it.
Unless we start fusing our smartphones directly into our bones.
Which Elon Musk wants to
Could
do.
very much happen, yeah.
Software archaeology is a thing.
Yeah, I don't
Just
see. I
imagine
think,
digging a cell phone out of
but if
the
you go
toilet.
through a collapse of civilization where you lose all the data, so that there's no record of it, I think you would lose.
Yeah,
any
you'd lose a
ability
lot
to-
more. Yeah.
Bless me.
Well, it doesn't count if you do it yourself.
Well, yes, sure. Also, I think I can smell that smoke now.
Yeah, that's probably why you sneezed.
I don't smell it as much.
I'm not getting it. Maybe they're outside.
Yeah.
It does taste smooth and relaxing, like all cigarettes do.
Man, think how cool you'd be if you actually smoked them.
Sponsored by Marlboro. Firefox.
It's January. We're desperate.
Firefox is getting an
February.
exciting new feature that is going to protect you from men in the middle.
Firefox will soon warn users of software that performs a man-in-the-middle attack. So, starting with version 66, Firefox will let you know when antivirus products, malware, or your ISP are tapping into your HTTPS traffic. So, this is kind of like how, the Lenovo Superfish software works, where it installs a trusted certificate on your computer, and then will establish a secure connection to Google, decrypt it, and then re-encrypt it using its own local trusted certificate, and then it'll display the website is still secure, but the software is able to analyze it and do stuff with it, which is perhaps more insecure than not having done that.
Which ISP was the one that was injecting a page that made you confirm that you understood the security thing?
Verizon and Comcast are both responsible for having done stuff like that.
Hey, bro, we've invalidated your security to make you aware of the security risk.
Now, they bought a piece of equipment to do that. They could have just made their infrastructure better.
That would cost money.
Yeah.
Well, they both cost money, but they could have saved money by not doing the thing that was unnecessary and doing the thing that was...
Listen, that sounds like effort, and they're about minimum effort possible.
But they already had the code for the other one from all that ad injection that they got caught doing. So it was really just a recycle job.
I shouldn't be injecting ads into my traffic.
But they will.
Well, another embarrassing thing for Apple that happened this week was a FaceTime bug. And this FaceTime bug had to do with the volume. So if you raised or lowered the volume before someone picked up the call, it just turned on the mic and the camera for you. And I can totally see how that happened. It was like the subroutine for volume was just enable the camera and the mic, because clearly why would you be changing the volume if those were off?
It's fine.
But there's good news is
Apple says it will fix the FaceTime bug that allows you to access someone's iPhone and camera before they pick up. So This was reported everywhere. Like, the normies were up in arms about this.
Yeah, people were screaming on Twitter.
Oh my God, what happened? But let this be a lesson to you. This is how easy it is to turn your phone into an eavesdropping device. It accidentally became an eavesdropping device.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was some kind of legal proceeding where there was like a lawyer with a client.
Oh, yeah, with a deposition. Yeah.
And the phone started ringing while they were talking, so someone got it.
Yeah. So that might be a thing.
A problem. Well, another problem that you might have if you have a phone is the loss of all your money.
Criminals are tapping into the phone network backbone to empty bank accounts. I think this story was the one that was from the UK. So if you've had problems...
Yeah, they have... what's the name of their thing? SS7.
Yeah, so I think if you've been having problems with your bank in the UK, you might want to look at this, because usually banks take the position, no, you authorize this transaction from your phone. That is enough proof for us that you authorize this. Well, not so much. SS7, turns out your mobile phone network's not really all that secure. So
this is very similar to the SIM attack we talked about in the last episode, but they don't actually have to get anybody from the telecom to go along with it. Yeah. They can just hack their way in.
Yeah.
And so this is your two-factor, all that kind of stuff.
I think that there's some privacy issues with this as well. Like, you can have somebody that joins like a poison tower, but after they join the poison tower, you can still follow them around. Oh, that's the new thing. That's the next story, actually. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. I'm just off my game today. I don't know.
You just dropped, you just pulled all that stuff.
My brain is not firing in order. I don't know what it is.
It's because it's a beautiful sunny day.
With all that sunlight's it's affecting
detrimental.
Your body's like, what sort of vitamin is this? D? I don't know what that is. Well, more bad news for 5G. It seems like all the 5G headlines are negative, and this one is no exception.
New flaw impacts 4G, 5G, 3G telephony protocols. This is the one that I was talking about in the UK story. So it's not that the protocol, the data aspect of the protocol has been compromised, but the metadata aspect of the protocol. So things like tracking where you are, how long you're there, what types of messages that you're sending, that's the type of information that leaks from these flaws. But the really amazing thing about this is that you can still be tracked after you leave the poisoned cell tower.
If you come back.
If you come back, yeah.
But I don't think this new one was a metadata attack. It's a new way of doing it.
Yeah, it's something. It's not. It's a novel attack. Metadata is maybe not the best way to describe it, but you can get information about, like, if somebody sends text messages, like,
how many.
Yeah,
and then once you have that unique identifier, every time they come back to that tower, you can then track them. So if you were to blanket a region in these devices, which a state could do,
like Washington D.C.,
you could certainly track everything that was going on there. Now here, once again, I'll reiterate, this is not a zoomed-in version of TechCrunch.
This is just how the site looks.
Well, there was an ad up there, and so it's like trying to show us an ad, and then it's like kind of like, no.
You can't ever. It's like a perfect pixel. Oh,
it's because we're blocking the ad.
Oh,
this is probably because some designer wanted it to be pixel perfect, so they had to add a ton of weird media queries, and now it breaks.
But you can just keep pausing it and read different sections.
Yeah.
Anyway.
India's largest bank.
Oh. SBI.
Leaked account data on millions of customers. That's like a fun little mini game, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this is the state-owned Indian bank. And they
lost everything.
It was a text message interface. So, like, not everybody in India has smartphones. Of course, not everybody anywhere has smartphones. So this was a service where you could text message, or actually somehow you could just call them and do like a voice thing. And then it would call you back or text message you back with your payment history or the last 5 transactions or balance or whatever. And all of that was just unsecured.
Wow.
Neat.
That was 300 million a day.
Oh.
Because there's a lot of people in India.
And no one noticed. Like, hey, why is the thing dumping 300 million records a day all of a sudden? What's going on?
That's not my job. I just hand out dum-dums. Or whatever the Indian equivalent of dum-dums is.
Oh, probably something curry flavored.
What if they have the same thing? What if dum-dums are universal?
I bet they are. Yeah. Because, like, I think M&Ms are universal, right?
I would think so.
Does
yeah,
everywhere have M&Ms? but they did. Maybe not China.
That'll be fun if American candy settles World War III someday. It's like everybody that has a disagreement with World War III. It's just...
This is popcorn dum-dum. I hate that.
It's like, look what we're destroying. We're destroying the ability to make this wonderful, delicious candy.
Listen, don't you want childhood obesity?
It makes everybody Pacific, so why not?
Well, Google Chrome, you know, they heard about Firefox doing the hijacking thing, man in the middle thing, and they were like, oh, no, you won't outdo us.
So Google Chrome is going to get warnings for lookalike URLs. Chrome to show warnings when accessing mistyped domains. This is great. This also, like, with Apple, like, where's the Apple news? Like, I was looking for Apple news to complement this. There's not really a bug, but on Safari, it always displays the leftmost part of the URL, which makes phishing really easy. So, like, if you've got a really long domain name and it's like secure.amazon.com, some other bullshit, something else, whatever, it'll show you the left side of the URL instead of the right side of the URL, so you don't know. Like, it looks kind of legit if you're not
paying attention.
If you're a normal person.
Well, and it's just more reasons Safari's garbage. And don't use it.
It really is.
So you might be thinking, hey, this doesn't affect me. I'm hyper vigilant. I can notice when any extra character is in there.
Unicode.
But how about this example here? So the I and the A are Unicode characters.
Yeah. On Windows machines, you can't even see a difference between those.
So this is a cool feature.
Mostly.
Everybody's like, maybe you can't. Normie. Get on my level.
I can tell.
Well, in Singapore, they have had, they actually already had the healthcare breach. Remember that? We talked about that. But now they've had a very specific and maybe more terrifying, if you're one of these people, healthcare breach.
Singapore HIV registry data leaked online in health breach. They think they got their man. It was a disgruntled employee.
It wasn't even a disgruntled employee. This, Christy, you will love this. This is
Why does he have a puppet?
This is an evil soap opera.
This is like the guy who stands between the Intel CEO and Lisa Sue. This is the villain in that fanfic.
He is definitely a terrible person. So the story goes, this guy went to Singapore. Now, Singapore is super strict on HIV people coming into the country. They screen for it before you get there. In the past, they wouldn't even let you in. But now they have this program where it's like, you go into like a quarantine or something. I don't know. But anyway, he was a lover of one of the high-ranking medical guys in Singapore. That guy substituted his own non-infected blood for this man's blood to get him into the country. This man then betrayed him, stole the database, and leaked it to the world.
I couldn't have written that better myself. That is the most bizarre thing.
I don't know what would make him do that.
I love that they selected this photo. Surely he has another one.
I mean, he looks terrifying in this photo.
What does he want? No one knows.
It's like one of those supervillains where it's like they're doing something that seems innocuous, but then like halfway as they're doing it, it's suddenly very terrifying.
It makes me. He reminds me of I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's where it's Ed Norton killed the cardinal of the church who he claimed molested him, and Richard Gere's his lawyer. Engagement Challenge.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't see.
But he plays an amazing character who's like real country Kentucky boy, but he's faking it all along. Spoiler alert.
What if we were going to watch it?
You're never going to watch it, Kristen. You know you don't watch.
I don't watch movies.
We've got a follow up on Collection 1 that we reported on last week.
Yeah, the follow up to Collection 1 is Collections 2 through 5.
Collections 2 through 5 have become public, and it looks like Troy Hunt or Brian Krebs, one of those guys, has identified the possible source for this. There's just some criminal. There's a criminal version of Troy Hunt, I guess. Troy Hunt is, he does Have I Been Pwned? The criminal version of that has been gathering leaked credentials into this super database for criminals.
Is he himself automatically a criminal for doing that, though? I mean, he's just collecting things.
Well, I mean, he's benefiting from that, and I would say
no, he didn't sell it.
Well, he might have sold it in the past.
But this is just gargantuan. It is a massive. How big was it? It was
many, like 70 terabytes or something.
No, I don't know if we got into terabyte. I think it's just
small.
like hundreds of gigabytes. But that's text, so you can imagine. And I think 2.2 billion when you remove duplicates.
No, it was 773 million unique email addresses under 22 million unique passwords.
That's number one.
Yeah. Oh. What's number, what,
2.2. It's like 3.5, but if you reduce duplicates, it's 2.2 billion records.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
In the entire.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, yeah. Basically, if you have an online account, you're probably in this. You're overwhelmingly likely. Because you got what portion of the 7 billion people aren't on the internet?
Have I been pwned.com? Just punch in your email address.
No, they don't have the update yet.
Oh, they don't have it in?
But there is a link in this article to a new tool that does have
They have collection 1 in, for sure.
Yeah, but you can search the whole thing. You can only search this one by your email address, not like Have I Been Pwned where you can search by your password. But yeah, I mean, at this point, just consider all your old passwords useless because they're out there somewhere.
Gonna have to go to the passwords that are like this long and just random characters.
Which a lot of places won't allow.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, your password must be less than 24 characters. And it's like, how can you possibly take yourself seriously if you're doing this?
I need a passphrase that has never been uttered in any literature or, in the history of humanity ever before. That's what my password has to be.
And
that way you can remember it.
But also that no one else randomly chose in the same way.
It's like, oh, I'll use that quote from Call of Cthulhu. Bad idea.
Well, that's it for government and security. And tomorrow we'll be talking about social, a little bit of design. One of the design stories was from 2017.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which we covered in the Level 1 news.
Did we?
In 2017, yeah.
I'm trying to remember what story it was because I had 2 or 3 that I posted.
And then, of course, nonsense, which everybody loves.
Today is February 8th.
And
that's how you make an 8 when you're in kindergarten.
As we roll into this first story, we got to give that,
the reminder.
Red alert ASPI warning about Valentine's Day.
Yes, it's almost Valentine's Day, so if you haven't gotten anything, now's the time. Pick up some flowers at the grocery store, a card, whatever you need to do.
And if you have no idea what to get, and especially if this is for a girl you haven't established a relationship with, there would be nothing weird about buying something super expensive for her and giving it to her, such as these.
Razer goes pink for Valentine's Day with the new Blade Stealth Quartz and more.
Wendell, you didn't think this was real, did you?
When this was happening, I did not think it was real.
This was all over Twitter, and I was kind of like, this is hideous, and yet I'm intrigued.
I don't know. I mean,
I wouldn't pay a premium for any of this, but I mean, the pinks, it's kind of cool.
I think the weirdest thing about this, and you have to look at some of these lower, like the microphone.
They're all completely pink.
Yeah, the
there's
cord.
Nothing.
The fact that the cords are pink, it looks like they're just spray painted. They're anodized. Anodized, is that?
Anodized.
Anodized. Aluminum.
But
aluminum.
There's nothing to make you think it's not spray painted because it's just completely the same color.
I think that's kind of the issue. When I looked at it, and that's why it looks so unreal. Is there's no variance in color. It's just straight pink. No darker pinks, no shine, no matte. It's just pink.
Well, it reflects the kind of woman who would use that. Shallow, emotionless.
Or men. I'm sure that there are men who will buy that.
It's a shade of
women,
it's a shade of pink that makes me think of certain, I don't know.
Like Umbridge from
certain
Harry Potter?
Anatomy?
No. That some men would probably buy that. Can you imagine though? I mean, if you're wearing a 3-piece suit with the shiny brown shoes, and you came into the boardroom, and it's let me take my laptop out, and it's that, and it's that's interesting. It's a bold choice.
We experienced that. You remember?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, we did. That was.
It was a cover though.
Every stereotype was later confirmed.
It was amazing how much of a stereotype that fit.
That was a weird meeting.
It was a weird meeting.
Now, this next story I read, and it was cracking me up because they were talking about this being a huge issue. This is not a huge issue.
This is people all arguing. I thought this was interesting as a designer working in the field. I could see how you guys would probably just look at this and kind of have your eyes glaze over.
No, but this is because you're one of these people.
I'm a professional graphic designer.
It's a tiny portion.
Yeah.
The headline was graphic design criticism as a spectator sport. You are amazingly good at that.
This is a great stock photo.
This is how it feels. They talk about the case study they discuss is University of California. They redid their logo and branding like maybe a year ago, and people at University of California lost their shit. Like, started petitions, like, we're rioting in the streets, like, you can't take away the seal! And it's like one of those weird phenomena, and this whole article just kind of goes into that, and like, what's your position as a professional designer? Are you giving the client a product, or are you giving them a service? And like, how do you navigate that? And like, how could you possibly anticipate that sort of reaction when you're doing client work? And the comments are really good too. It's
a bold choice. I don't know. When some of the, like, what's the iconic, like, German design?
Bauhaus?
Yeah, probably that. Like, when they were doing that, did they know what they were doing, or did it just become that because it was so good?
Well, I mean, usually, like, there's people in the movement who, like, kind of set the standards for it.
Well, it's like the University of California thing. I wondered, it's like, are they being bold because it's a bold choice, the way that Bauhaus was? Or is it more like, we're doing this for attention?
No, it wasn't. The design was, like, I mean, it wasn't anything to, like, write home about, but, like, it was a good update. I think it was fine.
But what they're talking about has nothing to do with radical changes. It's just any time there's a change.
Yeah, it was people freaking out at University of California because they got rid of the old, like, official-looking seal.
It doesn't seem to be as much as a freak out as when they brought in new Pepsi.
Well, that was a different flavor.
Crystal Pepsi or whatever.
The whole article goes into how, like, it's happening more and more with all kinds of brands. Like, someone just changes one little thing on a can, and people freak out. And
was that subterfuge to cover the switch from sugar to corn syrup?
No, I think it was still using whatever it was before that. Now, they had New Coke was... they actually changed the recipe.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Coca-Cola Classic. It was rejected on such a scale that they were just like, fine, we'll go back.
I think that one's the one where they switched from cane sugar to corn syrup. When they can eat classic is classic except for the sugar.
You said you don't like the sugar version, right?
That's the Pepsi Mountain Dew throwback.
Yeah.
Right. And
I don't mind that.
I was horrified to learn that I like corn syrup better. Which is weird. But speaking of people being outraged over pointless design changes...
Google cleans up Gmail app with an all-white redesign. I have no opinion on this.
I think this is fine. I actually use a custom theme for my Gmail, so this doesn't even affect me, but...
This was only the Android app as well.
Yeah, so it's like, okay.
And supposedly newer Android versions are going to give you dark mode on everything. So...
Now that is a change we can all get behind.
But it gets rid of the all-white. So how does that affect their design philosophy?
I think Google has so many products now that their design philosophy is just do whatever, as showcased by Google Analytics, which I hate. And I take every chance to tell everybody how much I hate Google Analytics.
One of my favorite stories of 2018, maybe top 10, was the YouTube Rewind. And the savage backlash that it got. Because people were voicing their opinion. We don't like what you're doing. We don't like who you are. We don't like that you're trying to shove content down our throats. Have a dislike. And YouTube's response to that, you think might be, oh, maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe we should change. No.
It's literally like the episode of The Simpsons when Skinner is standing over the wreckage or whatever, and he's like, maybe it is I who am out of touch. And it's like, no, it is the children who are wrong. And so YouTube wants to dislike mobs to stop weaponizing the dislike button. So yeah, like Ryan was saying, it's like there's no introspection there. They're literally saying, oh, this whole dislike button thing, that was weaponized. That was just groupthink. That wasn't because there's some legitimate grievance here.
So they're thinking about possible solutions. Get rid of it would be the easiest one. They're thinking about making you watch a certain percentage of the video before you dislike it. And they're thinking about using AI to track when mobs dislike a video. Like how... That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, if a video goes to the top of trending, there's going to be a lot of people hitting it. Like, you can't detect that.
How would you... organizing people to dislike something, they're not going to do it just for to appease somebody else. I mean, it's annoying to have to go do that.
Yeah.
You think maybe YouTube's getting disconnected from what problem it is that they're trying to solve and how the stuff works?
Yeah.
I think if they had to implement, which they shouldn't have to, and they probably shouldn't do it at all, but like if they had to implement it, it seems like you'd want to have them do it by percentage. Like you know, watch a certain amount and then you can dislike it. But
I didn't have to watch any more than 20 seconds to know about that YouTube Rewind video.
oh, Will Smith turns around, he's like, "Hey, Fortnite! Everyone likes Fortnite, right?"
Yeah.
That was pretty much the whole gist of the video.
Well,
It was on fleek.
the
Oh yeah,
the complaints
that's actually
about
supposed to describe eyebrows.
the YouTube Rewind revolve greatly around the community guidelines. People don't like it. People are getting demonetized. They're getting strikes, and the guidelines are very draconian, and it's hard to stay within them. So hard, in fact, that Google's own content doesn't.
Stay within it.
So this story takes a little bit to follow, but not really. It's like Raka, I guess is how
It's
that's...
another YouTube
It's a
channel.
YouTube channel. They claim that YouTube is breaking its own content policies and community guidelines with the new original Wayne.
Now, to
And
be
they present
fair,
a compelling case.
yeah, or however you pronounce it, they have their own channel and they do their own kind of like sort of semi-violent, like kind of
It's kind
pranks.
of a jackass kind of thing.
Yeah, and they've been demonetized over and over again. So they do have like some skin in the game in terms of like calling YouTube out on this, but they basically were like, YouTube, your own channels do this.
Yeah.
And
So
they're right.
when there's commercial content, I guess, like it's
For
not-
YouTube
it's-
Red.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that doesn't follow the guidelines at all. So it's not that that kind of content isn't allowed. It's very, very, very. It's a blatant double standard. So I can see why people would complain about that.
Yeah.
And it was promoted to the front page with no age restriction.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And that's now they have since went back and added the 18 plus restriction,
Oops.
which is kind of an admission of guilt. I would
Yeah.
think, in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
I wonder if they're gonna have to sit that one out. I mean, that's right up there with like not having any respect in the suicide forest or whatever.
Yikes. I forgot about that, but that was a highlight of 2018.
Well, speaking of coming down on the wrong side of the YouTube ban hammer, the copyright strikes are a constant threat because it's easy to get just a tiny, tiny snippet of copyright material into your videos, and then you risk that strike. Not just getting your ad dollars claimed, but the strike, which you're only allowed to get 3 of. And they found an interesting new way to abuse that policy.
YouTube strikes now being used as scammers' extortion tools. So yeah, scammers are abusing the 3 strike policy to issue strikes against channels so that they can be extorted into doing whatever, because otherwise the scammers will shut down the channel. And for smaller or even medium-sized channels, no one inside YouTube cares or wants to look into anything or will respond in any way to communication. So you're basically stuck.
Yeah, the channel in question in this article had 5,700 subscribers, and he had the emails. He had the evidence that they were extorting him. They were like, hey, and it wasn't even a lie. It was like $75 they wanted. But he tried to get in contact with somebody at YouTube, and they just simply didn't respond to him. They will now,
Yeah.
because it's in the news. But
How many other times did that happen for it to be useful for that scammer, though?
yeah, and plus
much
he's
money
still
they
got
make
those
off
2
that?
strikes. You think they'll take those away?
They should. Will they?
Will they?
Probably tell them, so go watch 8 hours of Wayne and then come back and we'll talk.
Well, speaking of things that are being shut down, the things that have 3 strikes against them.
Google Plus. Google Plus reveals the shutdown timeline for consumers, and it's coming fast.
Rip.
It had some security issues, which is what's responsible for the acceleration here.
I remember deleting Google Plus twice. Because
hard to
it
get
just
rid of.
it just magically came back, and I deleted it again, and I was like, all right, it's finally gone. I just got an email yesterday, and it was like, oh, by the way, your Google Plus profile is going away. And I was like,
What? That's news to me.
It's like, bro, I've already deleted that twice.
but I imagine it came back.
Do you remember when YouTube tried to get everyone to use their Google Plus accounts as like their commenting thing, and people threw a fit?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Although, interestingly now on YouTube, because the Google Plus integration is not there anymore, there doesn't seem to be a way to change your avatar now on YouTube. So, like, if we want to change the little L1, there doesn't seem to be a way to do that.
It's on the homepage, I think. Like you click on your channel, and then there's like you hover over it, and there's a pencil icon.
We'll see. They're changing the thing to be like the new layout on the homepage, and so when I tried to go there, it didn't. It just put me in an infinite loop.
Oh.
I don't know.
Their UX team is just asleep at the wheel sometimes.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they're too busy rewriting the code of conduct.
It's important work.
Well, good news if you were in Ghana or Morocco or Laos.
Is it good news?
Wow.
Facebook is bringing express Wi-Fi to Ghana to expand the free basics to Morocco and Laos. Now, this story talks about internet access in the third world, and I can't help but think about those stories that we covered earlier this week where the VPN that Facebook was providing spied on literally everything you were doing.
Well, it is good news, and I'll tell you why. So this is not just coming to these places. They already had free basics. Now, you might wonder, what is free basics? Free basics is like anti-net neutrality taken to the eventual end of it, where you get free internet access, with a catch. The catch is you can go to like 3 websites, one of which is Facebook, and nowhere else. Now, the Express Wi-Fi expands that, and you can pay them to go to the other websites. So,
wow, what a deal.
No longer restricted to just Facebook.
But they're still mining the crap out of your data.
Absolutely. Literally everything you do is going directly into something.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, Facebook, as we know, a terrible, terrible problem with what they claim is fake news. And they really want to do something about it. And they really want to make sure that the things on their website have been properly fact-checked. But do they really?
Snopes quits its fact-checking partnership with Facebook. This story is great because the quotes from the Snopes people are amazing. My favorite one says something to the effect of, we were basically being used as PR fodder. Like, Facebook was not really serious about fact-checking. They just wanted to hold us up and be like, look, Snopes is helping us fact-check stuff. We're doing better. And not actually interested, which I thought was a really interesting perspective.
I mean, I'm sure Snopes has its own biases, but it's
my God.
fairly accurate, I would say.
No. I hate that Snopes is synonymous with truth because they definitely have an agenda. But like the fact that they definitely have an agenda, but Facebook was still too loose for them. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, another wonderful TechCrunch headline. All right, Krista, get it before.
Okay, Facebook shares shoot up after strong Q4 earnings despite data breach. I don't know why I yelled it like it was like a Jeopardy, like lightning round.
This is interesting because after a year of data leaks and delete Facebook and all the scandals, Facebook is making a lot of money.
It's a delayed effect. Wall Street will eventually notice and be like, hey, wait a minute. Or everybody on Wall Street is a lizard person, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
And that's when I pull off my mask and I'm a lizard person too.
They love to go to Zuckerberg's house and have goat.
Undercooked
goat.
I think I told you guys that we misread that story. There's actually a line where he didn't slaughter it right in front of Jack Dorsey.
I don't remember us saying that. Did we say that?
I think we implied that.
Yeah, well, that's how the article read.
Implies that.
Yeah, but then I went back and read it because someone called me out on it. And I was like, are you sure? And then I reread it. And there is one line at the very start. It's like, he didn't actually do it. But here's what would have happened if he did.
But based on Dorsey's quotes, how did the goat get butchered and come back in time for him to
eat?
I think that the Jack Dorsey's quote is indicative of enough of an understanding of social protocol, like that's probably not okay. Like, I mean, I think we all misunderstand. Like, I would
have been fine if he slaughtered his own goat. I just wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to be there to see it. It's like, why did you bring me over here to watch that?
We went to a farm where it's like farm raised goat, and that's like that makes total sense.
But wait, now if Dorsey was served the goat, how could he have possibly been witness to the tasing?
Because it takes more time to do that. You mean? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. If you're not going to tase the goat the same day that it gets butchered, the same day that you serve it.
That's the way they implied it.
He might have had video on his phone like, hey, look, here's where I killed that goat. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? Here's me butchering it. Or you don't know.
Maybe
it was a strange story, but we didn't read it properly, or I didn't read it properly.
Maybe more likely he has like a personal butcher.
That seems more likely. Oh.
Well, no. The story said that he butchered it himself. Maybe not right then, but
no. He sent it to be butchered.
Or he killed it to.
I don't know. You know what?
Yeah.
We don't know what happened there.
Who cares what Mark Zuckerberg did?
If he killed the goat and just didn't slaughter it in front of guests, whatever.
You know what? I say we'll double down and just make up whatever we want. He killed the goat with a baseball bat. Just with his bare hands, tore the flesh away and served it still bloody. And then he took Jack Dorsey's face and just smashed it down into it. That's exactly what happened.
It's entertaining.
Quote it.
It's definitely entertaining.
And they're also they talk about how they're not
way out.
they're not hemorrhaging people as much anymore. And they are managing to monetize the older people somehow. So, good job, I guess.
Yay for exploiting the elderly.
Yeah, woo.
Oh, here's another one.
Oh, Facebook warned over privacy risks of messaging platforms.
Merging.
No, you missed it.
Merging, oh.
Merging messaging platforms. Yeah, so this article talks about how a lot of the internal people were like, hey, this is probably going to lead to some bad stuff.
It's
and
Ireland specifically.
yeah. And so turns out they were right.
Well, we're not sure. But I mean, it's almost definitely the EU is going to say some things about this, and that the Ireland Facebook team was like, "Whoa, guys, did maybe a memo before you announce this? Because remember that they can really fine us a lot
Actual
now."
money.
Yeah, and so they're talking about how almost certainly there's going to be problems with GDPR type stuff, and there probably will.
Oops.
I don't know. Another way that Facebook is raking in the cash is by, taking advantage of the children.
Facebook referred to kids as young as 5 as whales for its monetized games. So the leaked content that went into this article is amazing.
Well, I don't think it was leaked. It was the court case, and the judge decided to release it.
It is now public, yeah. So their internal engineering team were like, hey, we could just make a couple basic changes here that will prevent kids from accidentally or on purpose spending their kids' money. And the business people were like, let's not put that in.
They also had chat records from the refund team, and they were talking about, it's like, well, reading this email, is this from the kid or is this from a parent? And it was like, well, I think it's like a 12-year-old kid. And the answer was, I wouldn't refund. And you have to assume that if it was from the parents, that answer would have been different.
Yeah.
And they called the kids whales because I think that kid spent like 10 grand or something.
Yeah. It's a gambling term. They're not calling kids fat.
Yeah.
Maybe they are.
Could have been both.
It comes from Vegas. It's like people that show up in Vegas and you spend a lot of money, you're in a list, and they will treat you like royalty if you lose lots and lots of money at the casino.
Well, this is completely unsurprising to me. The least surprising headline of the day, but I suppose some people might not know this.
Salon says that a gold standard study finds deleting Facebook is great for your mental health.
Surprise.
Yeah,
surprising no one.
I would say that that's true. It's like, it's just a waste of time. You're looking at what other people are doing and being sad.
Says someone who tweets obsessively.
Now, you look at Facebook to watch the train wrecks of your hometown, but also to see what people are selling.
These guys, I think you're kind of unique in that. I don't think a lot of people use Facebook.
I use the marketplace constantly.
So what these guys did is they actually got people and paid them to disable their Facebook account. And then they monitored to make sure it was never re-enabled during the course of the study. And then they would text message them every week. And it was like, how are you feeling about X, Y, and Z? And they showed that the control group who still used Facebook didn't change at all. And the other people were like, you know what? I'm exercising more. And I watched a really good show on TV. And I went to see my sister. Yeah. And
I kissed my wife more.
Life got better without Facebook.
I wonder if there's an aspirational version of Facebook, like where you can see somebody and be inspired to make things better instead of being depressed that things are worse.
I don't think that's how humans work.
I mean, I guess art websites, but I mean, that's only if you're an artist. I don't know.
It inspired me to whatever. It's like, oh.
Well, here's a headline that I understand the basic principle of it, but I don't understand why there's a news article about it.
Exclusive. Snapchat weighs what was once unthinkable. Permanent snaps.
I don't use Snapchat, so that was just a gasp for dramatic effect.
People were so angry because I was on the headline and not switched to the camera when you had the DP response last week.
It took me like a solid 2 minutes to understand what the joke was there.
I missed an amazing nerd joke for that too. When you said double, I should have said precision.
Oh.
So, yeah, I guess Snapchat goes away after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, that's the way this works.
Now they're thinking about not doing that. And some of the people are angry.
I had to explain to my younger cousins, just because Snapchat says it's deleted it doesn't mean that someone else deleted it when you sent it to them.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, who would do that? And I was like, lots of people.
Literally the entire internet.
Yeah. So I try to grill them on internet safety. I don't know how much they they retain that.
Do they? You should show them some of the articles of people like in politics and celebrities who the old stuff is coming back to get them.
I mean, I've told them that kind of stuff before, but I don't know if it really like permeates.
Did you see the picture? Was it a governor who had the blackface Klansman picture?
Oh, it goes deeper than that. They found some older stuff older than that, and it gets worse.
It wasn't just like a Halloween costume. It was like.
Oh, it was bad.
But we had the one senator from West Virginia who was literally in the Klan, and he just recently died. I mean, he was in the Senate for a good 20 years as an ex-Klansman. So,
wow.
We talked about BuzzFeed earlier. We just linked to one of their articles, and of course, the big story was the layoff we talked about last week. But the people who were laid off from BuzzFeed didn't get a lot of pity on social media.
No.
Will Twitter punish users who tweet "learn to code" at laid off journalists? Maybe.
Why would they punish them? Is it considered cyberbullying?
They say that it's sort of like mob harassment because so many people are doing it.
Like, would people really go out of their way to... I say that knowing full well the internet will.
Oh, yeah, it became a big meme.
Well, I mean, with the BuzzFeed layoffs, and I think Machinima is shutting down, and just all sorts of crazy stuff.
Oh, there was another one that just announced.
I mean, January is bad for like ad revenue, so check out the Level1 store.
It's all the media, like online media.
Yeah.
They're crumbling.
Yeah.
Which, of course,
was January.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's just January.
I like that you keep saying that, like everyone will understand.
It's actually February.
I think they actually bake into their business model that might happen once a year.
Yeah.
Krista, get ready.
Twitter bug makes it look like random tweets are appearing in your timeline.
Retweets.
Retweets, dang it.
This is the if you know somebody that knows somebody thing is what's causing this. So like if you know somebody that retweets something from somebody else, it shows from somebody that you're not following, but you don't see who on your follower list retweets.
But they admitted it was an Android bug.
Yeah, it's not supposed to do that.
Yeah, so it's been fixed.
Sometimes it'd be like that, though.
It do.
You know how you can fix this is use my Twitter strategy. Never follow anyone.
You really don't have anybody following?
I thought about following Romeo.
You don't follow level 1 text?
No.
Wow.
I thought you had one follow or one person you were following.
No, never have. That's why I thought maybe Romeo would be the one, but I think I'll just stick with 0.
You know, KFC follows 7 guys named Herb and the Spice Girls.
Yeah.
It's 11 herbs and spices.
WhatsApp is used for terrible things. It's used for lynch mobs. It's used for fraud. It's used for political racketeering. But maybe good things can come from it.
Detainee bags top prize for book written via WhatsApp. So I was fascinated to learn, okay, that's cool. I want to read the book.
I thought that was going to be a woman until you scrolled down.
He's an Iranian, and he is trying to get asylum in Australia, but Australia puts anybody that's applying for asylum on an island somewhere. And he's been there for 6 years. Can't go back to Iran. And he wrote his book from the island, trying to get into Australia as someone seeking asylum. So I feel like that this book will probably help him do that.
Oh, the prize is $75,000.
No, I mean, but he's got enough notoriety that Australia is like, all right, come on in.
They shouldn't, though.
The book is about the other detainees that are struggling, and not detainees, but other asylum seekers that are just hanging out on this island that are not. You can't go to Australia when you're seeking asylum. You're sequestered on an island while they investigate you for 6 years or more in this case.
That's crazy.
What it should do is educate people that, hey, you can't just get on a boat and go someplace that doesn't want you. Yeah. That's not how it works.
He came from Iran.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's one thing if you're just coming from a random country, but like if you're literally like, I'm going to die if I stay here. I don't know. I have a little more sympathy for that.
Maybe they can fix up the island.
It's the genetic lottery. I'm not saying it's a good thing. That's how it is. Well, we're back here in America. The government is back in power. They're operating again. Everybody can breathe a sigh of relief, except for Ubisoft.
Ubisoft apologizes for the Division 2 email promising a real government shutdown. I got this email.
I did too.
Yeah, it was, and it was
think I
just
got it.
yeah. They're like, oh, you want to see a government shutdown? Let's do a real government shutdown.
Yikes.
It's like, way to go, Ubisoft. Was that?
I didn't think that was that insensitive.
I didn't think it was.
Is it insensitive, or are they thinking it was like terroristic threatening?
No, it's supposed to be insensitive to the people who were out of work for so long.
Well, the way that I looked at it was, I mean, yes, it is, I guess, but the thing that was more serious to that is like if I wrote an email like that and we sent it to the level 1 following or all the members of the forum or whatever,
Let's shut down the government.
probably terroristic threatening. But because, Ubisoft did it.
This is obviously a fantasy, like, future, like, apocalypse. I mean, that's common.
I agree with that. I'm just saying that any more people are dumb as a box of turnips. So.
What about that movie where the aliens blew up the White House?
That was based on a historical fact. That happened.
What about movies like Blazing Saddles, which would never be allowed today?
I really do think this is more about
Oops.
being insensitive to the government workers. Which, I mean, if we can't make fun of government workers, who is left? If you can't hate the government, good Lord, I don't even know if I want to live in this world.
That was so Appalachian the way you said that. Good Lord.
The revenuers.
I always liked how Futurama made fun of like the government bureaucracy. I always thought they did a really good job with that.
I've been thinking about getting some cats.
And he should, but he won't
And
do it.
this article gave me not a moment's pause about getting cats. Didn't change my mind a bit.
Mind-altering cat parasite linked to schizophrenia in largest study ever. So this is our old friend toxoplasmosis, or Toxoplasma gondii. This parasite is known to change the behavior of rats. So it's carried by cats, and it will infect rats, but it'll make the rats want to go to the cats instead of avoid the cats.
It affects all mammals.
Yeah,
well,
like it can affect humans too.
It infects all mammals. We don't know if it affects all mammals.
I bet humans like cats because of it.
Well, if so, then I've
like
got
cats,
it
though.
because I love cats. But so the study here, they had some pretty compelling numbers that it could possibly lead to schizophrenia. That a lot of people who didn't have schizophrenia before the blood test and then tested positive for the cat plasma and did get schizophrenia afterwards, there was like an overwhelming correlation.
Isn't schizophrenia usually like a genetic disease as well too? They're like, if you have someone else in your family who's had it, usually you'll get it too.
But this could be like a trigger.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So I don't care.
Could be related.
Still thinking about getting some cats.
You guys are kind of on the tail end of that age, I guess, but like, they say you start like showing symptoms of schizophrenia when you're like late 20s, early 30s, and I'm like, sometimes I'll have that moment. I'm like, am I going to be schizophrenic? I don't know why I have that feeling, but
We still got some time.
it's a weird thing to be paranoid about. What other mental illnesses can we tack on?
Do you feel that way after you make someone cry?
No, just in general. Like when I get upset about something stupid at my house, I'm like, is this just me being irrational, or is this like a sign of something scarier?
So would a good example of that irrationality be if you paid to be scared and then sued someone for scaring you?
Yes. Yes, that could be schizophrenia.
Halloween Monsters at Dorney Park scared a little girl and she's suing, or her parents are suing. Good Lord. I hope this
How old
gets
was
thrown
the
out.
girl? I didn't.
She was in her preteen, maybe.
This is
That's
in Philadelphia.
ridiculous.
So they won $150,000.
She's old enough at that point. Like, we're going into a haunted house. It's supposed to scare you. Like, she should understand that.
Maybe they didn't report her age because she's young.
But at the same time, though, it's still like,
Teen daughter.
I would think the parents would understand that as well. Like, who goes into a haunted house thinking it's just going to be non-haunted?
So she was at least 13. Now, here's the argument. So they said they went in to be haunted, and then the people came out, the actors, and they were like freaking her out. And she was like, no, you need to stop. I'm scared. And then someone crept up behind her after she said that. Who knows if they even heard it.
Yeah.
And that extra scare caused her to fall, which led to injury. Oh, they didn't say what kind of injury.
Probably like she scraped her knee.
A bruise.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
The skin was broken, tiny little break.
It's like she's never even ridden a wooden roller coaster where your knees are just destroyed and battered every time you ride. That's part of the experience.
Oh, the last time I rode a wooden coaster, I could feel it in my kidneys.
And
Yeah.
you can't ask the wooden coaster to stop.
Yeah.
That's the experience.
You've already committed to the ride.
She's lucky she didn't pee her pants.
Well, I mean, that wouldn't be lasting damage, I guess.
Emotional damage, maybe.
That is
like Krista's meeting.
That's one of the problems that you might have if you have a child, a sensitive child. But what if you have a child who's just not very perceptive?
Family out $13,000 after son makes a series of purchases. This was on an Xbox. So I don't know enough about Xbox to know how easy or hard this is, but the kid said that he was just really impatient clicking buttons, and somehow that led to
he
purchasing.
Thought it wasn't loading, I guess, probably.
I can see that because it's not the game lagging, it's hitting the payment server.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, hey, give me my dance move now, Fortnite.
I need it.
I want it now.
My skins.
And so, yeah, the other thing was when they set up the Xbox account, they sat the kids down and they were like, all right, we're going to put a credit card on here, but you got to come and talk to us first. But they didn't want to use their main credit card. They wanted to use one with a lower limit. So they used one that they didn't go online and check.
Yeah.
So this was over the course of 10 months.
Yeah.
And the credit card was auto pay.
And there was one purchase that was like $300 in one go. And they also said that they did put child restrictions on the Xbox, but it was maybe for just one game as opposed to a global restriction.
I think they just didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Right. Why would you give your kid a credit card?
Chargeback was not an option here. They tried, and there's an investigation. But
Discover called Microsoft, and Microsoft was like, no, here's the proof. And Discover was like, you're on your own. Now, Microsoft's response to this is the response that everybody should do in these situations. Gift cards. Never give them your... I mean, look at the mega leak that we just talked about. Microsoft and Sony and all the online people are eventually going to lose your credit card. Use gift cards.
Some of my family thinks I'm paranoid because I'll go out and buy a Visa gift card just to make an online purchase for certain things, and they're like, "Why would you do that?" I'm like, "Because I don't trust them."
You don't even have to use a Visa. They sell.
For
Xbox,
that they do. Yeah,
or Netflix.
Yeah.
There are some credit card providers that in the online portal will provide a one-time use credit card number.
Oh yeah, Visa
awesome.
will do that.
Yeah.
But in this situation, that wouldn't have helped them. No. At least the gift card, when they hit that $50 or whatever
limit, it would
just be over.
There's really no reason that credit card companies couldn't offer the gift card functionality online. They really should.
Well, they don't. That's not in their best interest, though.
Yeah, I think I don't think Microsoft was really bothered by this. I don't think Discover was really bothered by this.
It's like the Facebook Kids thing, except slightly less evil than the Facebook thing's like, this is like,
Well, this is preventable if you're paying attention.
So is Facebook.
Yeah.
Listen, I hate Facebook.
Friends don't let friends Facebook.
But if you turn your kid loose with a credit card online, you deserve whatever you get.
Facebook did offer us thousands of dollars to put videos on that, and I think that ship has sailed.
I completely forgot to do that.
We were going to do that, but then it's like...
listen, I'll sell out to Facebook for a couple of grand. It's no problem.
We don't have a lot of followers on. We have some. When we first started, we set up a Facebook page. But
it might still be worth doing that, just because, YouTube's burying us.
I think that ship has sailed.
But they'll still let us put our stuff on there, right?
Yeah, we have a page.
Just not for money now.
I don't know. We need to look into that.
As we talk about how terrible it is.
Netflix in Canada has really been working hard to establish sort of a beachhead there. It's Netflix. And remember, they had that thing where Netflix Canada had to have a certain amount of French content and Canadian content.
But cultural preservation.
And so they're very serious about that, as illustrated here.
CBC president compares Netflix influence to colonialism. So, yeah. It's like, look, we're adopting their culture because we're all about their movies and media. We need our own. Not really.
Does Canada have a movie industry, really? I'm not sure they have an independent
Toronto.
Kinda. Yeah, I think they're still making black and white pictures.
You're right. So the Toronto Film Festival. That's the only thing I can think of that's big movie thing. And
there's a lot of prop houses and stuff like that in Toronto. You can, if you want to do a budget production of stuff, Toronto's the place to be.
I forgot. That's probably the only movie thing that I know about Canada, though. I couldn't name a Canada production.
The problem is any Canadian who is a good entertainer or a good actor or whatever, we just take. Because obviously, why wouldn't you want to be here?
And then they gave us Justin Bieber. That's a name I haven't heard or said in a long time.
How about Alex Trebek?
Oh, yeah.
The greatest thing to ever come out of Canada, essentially. They often say, beware of strangers bearing gifts. And this story will add a little bit of an addendum to that: urine-coated gifts.
New Mexico woman says she keeps getting pea-covered bologna from strangers. Now, the thing that I kept wondering is...
I think it's just stranger, singular.
But how does she know that it really is urine?
She smelled it.
Yeah, surely you would know.
But what if it's just ammonia?
I don't know. What's weirder?
Maybe he's been eating asparagus right before.
What if it's not the stranger's urine? What if it's something else?
What is dog urine?
So-
What if Rue's in on this plot?
Let's go through the story here. There's not just one woman. The entire little cluster of houses.
If we go through the story, blood is going to shoot out of my nose.
And I
Because
don't
it
know.
doesn't make any sense.
I don't know how many houses there are, but at least her and her neighbor. The neighbor is now moving because of this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Will routinely get plastic bags filled with bread, bologna, and urine.
People are baffled. The police, nobody has any idea.
Now, of course, the police aren't going to put any
But
resources toward this.
They've been out like 6 times.
Yeah, they'll
surely
come.
you would couldn't you hire a private detective and just have someone sit there? All
We
day?
just put a camera.
Yeah. Surely you would see it.
Private
I bet it's the same guy. It's the puppet guy from the Singapore story.
Oh, that's even more dangerous.
But
because
that's a fanfic I want to read.
it's HIV urine. It's a bodily fluid.
Oh, I didn't think about that angle. I was just thinking about him and the puppet
I wonder,
in your thing.
is it some kind of a message? It's like pea ham, bologna pea, PB. Is it PB and J?
Surely it's not a sexual thing, right?
Maybe it could be like just a feral thing, like marking your territory. Although you think that he expects them to eat it, right? So
Maybe he just likes the texture of the bologna.
can you imagine the kind of person who finds bologna hanging on their door and they're like, "Oh, free bologna."
And then they open it and smell it.
When you say open, I get the impression that it's just loose in the bag with urine.
I guess you could see through the bag, so you wouldn't need to open
Well, I
it.
don't know what kind of bag it is. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
What if there's a
comment on
service
the
for
story.
this that's just misdelivering? Like they got the wrong address, and somebody's like, "Listen,
But it's the
you
whole
need to
neighborhood,
deliver."
though.
Pissmeat.com. Of course.
That exists.
I mean, Amazon has got these temporary stand-in, Prime delivery drivers, which, they still are using those. We're still getting a lot of random
Oh,
Prime.
yeah, I've noticed that.
And that would be super efficient too, because the drivers aren't allowed to stop and use the bathroom.
Yeah.
So you just piss on the meat.
kill
But
two
who's
birds with one
ordering
stone.
bologna?
Fresh.
Makes sense. I have
Well-
to understand why. It's like, is she riding the polo pony? Just like, is it a scholarship? I don't. It goes in your ear, blood out your nose.
As we've learned, Siri has gotten far better. She's giving better instructions, better directions, better at searching, but there are some things you should not share with Siri.
13-year-old boy tells Siri that he's going to shoot up a school. Siri interprets that as, here are some schools nearby. And the 13-year-old boy was charged with intimidation.
Yeah, they kind
Siri's
of.
just trying to be a bro here, really.
Well, he posted it to social media, so
Yeah.
that was really the dumb part. But the cops had a hard time coming up with a charge. Like, intimidation is kind of a stretch here. I don't know if that'll ever hold up in court.
They went through his social media history and found him mishandling a handgun, and somehow that is another charge.
Well, I mean, he's 13. Why does he have access to a gun without a parent around?
Well, listen.
Well, he didn't have access to a gun. That was one of the things, is like, he does not currently have access to a gun, but in the past, he went shooting or something and didn't handle a gun correctly.
This is. I can't imagine the stupidity. What need is there in human beings for that much attention and that negative attention?
Yeah.
I mean, I know, well, with kids, it's because the parents don't care.
Exactly. I was going to say that's probably a sad home life.
Oh, but you are creating little monsters. That should be the crime. The parents should be locked up immediately, and the kids should be euthanized because what are you going to do with him at this point?
He's probably going to just put piss baloney on people's...
He will be a prime pissmeat.com
Do
candidate.
you want piss baloney? Because this is how you get piss baloney.
We talk a lot
Good
about
username.
piss baloney.
They're
Yeah.
going to join the forum. You need to remember to go put
No, I'm
that
going
as
to
a-
change my battle net. People think I'm smurfing.
We talk a lot about password security, and you really have to take it seriously. And you got to give props to this guy because he went the extra mile with hardcore password security, unfortunately.
Ars Technica says the digital exchange has lost 137 million as founder takes passwords to the grave. Quadriga CX? I'm not sure if that's
Quadriga, I guess.
Quadriga CX? I don't know. Survivors try to hack the encrypted laptop in hopes of accessing the cold wallet. So this guy had Crohn's disease. He was only 30, and he died, I guess unexpectedly, from the Crohn's disease. And nobody has access to the wallet, the cold wallet that stored most of this exchange's money. Now, I've read other articles on this, and the estimate was 250 million, or was revised upwards. So, yeah, 250 million of cryptocurrency on an encrypted laptop.
But they have, I think something like 50 million was locked up in debt. So they do have money, but there's like lawsuits or something. So, yeah, they really need this $137 million. And there's a USB drive and a laptop. Both are heavily encrypted, and nobody knows the passwords. The wife has been, like, tore the house apart, and he never wrote it down or recorded it anywhere. Which is what they tell you to do, right?
Put it somewhere. Something.
Nah, that's
Keep
not
it secret.
That's
Keep
not
it
good
safe.
password security.
Well, I mean, it has to be like, it could be good password security.
Don't tell any amphibious men living in caves where you put it.
Definitely don't encode it in piss and put it in a bologna sandwich.
What about Romeo the Frog? I think we could trust him.
Oh, yeah.
We probably could.
We looked for an update on that story for this week, but
He's got a Twitter.
he's got a Twitter, but he hasn't made it yet.
We'll get the announcement soon. Well, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the news, but I think we all share this dream. I certainly have it, of living in a decommissioned prepper missile silo.
Yeah, well, gotta get fiber optic internet, but other than that, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I
this-
wouldn't mind something like that.
This
like a
house
farm.
is not going to offer that. What it will offer you, some of the big things, is 40,000 gallon water tank, total solar, off the grid power, a machine shop for automotive repair,
Also off the grid.
and a wood shop for, of course there's no trees, but
Yeah.
We'll plant some.
well, you're not going to plant.
Also a giant pipe organ.
It's only $900,000. Take a look inside. It's the Doomsday Prepper Dream Home. Now, there is one gotcha, and that is you're going to have to truck water in from somewhere.
Which
Also-
that seems like, why wouldn't you design a rain catch? But I guess if you're in the desert, it probably doesn't rain enough.
Also, your idea of planting trees is
Yeah.
That soil's not supporting nothing.
But this is a cool. I mean, for 900 grand, this is not bad. It is built castle style for defense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously.
There's a mansion not far from here. It's crazy because it's like a crazy amount of money, and you wouldn't know at like the top level just looks like a giant mansion, but underneath it there's like a whole prepper vault filled with like freeze dried meals, and they just casually breeze through it in the home tour.
Oh, did we also mention this is a gold mine?
Yeah, there's a gold mine on the property of this one, which
It doesn't have any gold anymore.
I
Well,
don't have the kind of money.
I'm
to
sure it's still
afford
got,
either of these properties.
I'm sure it's still got powder.
Yeah.
Flake.
This would be like a great setting of a video game. Like you buy this house, and then like each different section is like a new level. Like the gold mine is the final level where you have to beat the boss.
This is kind of weird. 3 bathrooms.
That seems like a lot for a prepper house.
A lot. That seems like a little for a $900,000 house.
Well, the rest of it I would assume would go into efficiency for other things. Like think of all the plumbing and stuff you have to have for those bathrooms.
Nice countertops.
Aren't they composting? Why is the fridge elevated?
It's an apartment-sized fridge.
Why not? I think this is storage, right?
This is like tiny house style.
Oh.
It's not that big for what it is. That's pretty nice.
It's probably the land as well as what you're paying for.
That looks like it's booby
You
trapped.
think that's an accurate globe?
No.
It could be. I like
But,
that the
yeah.
organ is like one of the big selling features. It's like, who needs an organ?
The other thing this place doesn't have is water.
Yeah, the water is kind of a deal breaker in
Kind
terms
of
of like,
important.
yeah,
I don't know much about survival, but I'm pretty sure water is like way up on the list.
it is. It's pretty high on the list. You can only survive 3 days without it.
But what if you had some of those bologna sandwiches?
You can't drink your own piss.
How fresh is that
contrary
piss?
to what some would have you believe.
You totally can.
Isn't that what the Survivor guy does?
You can drink your own piss. I mean, you can't. That's like not sustainable, but if
No, you will quickly die from that.
But
Like
not
they
as,
tell you not to drink.
but
it
not
in
as
the
quickly as
military.
you would drinking nothing.
Yeah, that's true. If you had literally like it's day 3.5 and you're like about to die.
I think you're a bigger Lestrade fan than I am, and I'm pretty sure.
No, Lestrade never said.
No, that was the other guy.
It's the other guy who stays in hotels and stuff.
Grills.
Bear Grylls, yeah.
Bear Grylls is not the real deal.
He looks for any excuse to drink piss.
I remember the first time he did that, he was like, I really just want to wet my lips. And everybody was like, he's not going to do it. Oh my God, he's doing it.
Lestrade actually makes fun of it in his show. He's like, I would never recommend it. He's like, make a solar still with your piss instead. And it's like, wow, that's actually pretty smart. I didn't even think about that. Thanks, Lestrade.
Well, not everybody's going to be able to do that.
You can usually salvage up some crap.
One thing that everybody can do is enjoy this hot new performance.
Marshmallow announces a date for the Fortnite Pleasant Park performance. This is going to be in Fortnite.
So they've been really promoting this all over the internet, and I had to admit, I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah, I've never heard of
He's a DJ, apparently.
DJ Marshmallow.
Like Dead Mouse, like Dead Mouse 5. But he's a marshmallow instead of a mouse.
So this is going to be a special game mode where you don't have the time limit. And there's going to be, apparently there's a stage somewhere that's already been constructed in the game. And you go there and you can enjoy a concert.
And people can still kill you.
Wow.
But you respawn immediately where you were, so you don't have to miss out on the exciting music.
It said there was respawn. I didn't understand that you were respawning exactly in the same place.
Well, maybe you're not. But how terrible would it be if he's
somebody could grease.
It's like hitting the crescendo, the hot part of the song. And
you're ready to just punch someone else in the audience in the face.
Yeah. Now, this headline says, this one doesn't say it, but they might have changed it. There was a headline that said it was the first ever. Turns out Minecraft already did it.
How crazy is it going to be if Fortnite, like the Fortnite universe, turns into like the next Second Life? Like you got your Fortnite character just wandering around, and that's your online persona and doing other things.
I guess I'll have to settle for one life because I'm not doing
it. There was a Reddit post that was like, Fortnite's the best game I've never played because it's taken all of the toxic assholes and kids out of my games and put it into one.
It's like, that stuff that at theme parks, when someone vomits, they sprinkle on it and it sucks up. That's what Fortnite is.
There was a name for that. We called it magic dust when I worked at a grocery store.
That's it for the news this week, I'm afraid. It was a long one this week.
This was a long one.
Might be a record setter. See ya.